Chapter 101. Old Demon Duan gets into action at the slightest disagreement. Duan Yun returned to Yuzhu Villa and spoke to Xin Ying and the Murong brothers about the storyteller's tale. The Murong brothers couldn't help but exclaim, "Brother, you really have a knack for being blamed for things. Now you've even got the blame for stuff in Liuzhou. By the way, are those jade girls pretty?" Duan Yun said, "Who knows? It's all messed up. They even claimed to have conjured my Dharma image." The smart Murong brothers' eyes lit up with an idea. "I know. It must be one of your intimate sisters who wants to attract your attention that made up this Jade Sword sect to lure you there." "Shut up. Shut up," Duan Yun and Xin Ying said in unison. The absurdity of the Murong brothers was their ability to relate anything to sisters. "What are you planning to do?" Xin Ying asked. Duan Yun pondered. "I was unaware before, but now that I know, it's quite a shock to find there are so many masters out to take my life. Once my sword is forged, I'll take the initiative to attack." Duan Yun seriously said, "I was thinking, how can I kill the Tower Master of the Red House, the sect leader of the Thunder God and Mother sect, and all of the 12 star signs? I'm not greedy. I always thought of slaughtering the Red House Mad Woman and the Thunder Lunatic entirely. But now it seems difficult. A beheading strike seems more reliable." "You call this not being greedy and reliable?" Xin Ying and the Murong brothers nearly dropped their jaws upon hearing his words. Duan Yun, seeing their expressions, asked, "Is it that difficult?" "Very difficult," said the Murong brothers earnestly. "How difficult can it be for the sect leader of the Thunder God and Mother sect?" Duan Yun asked, unconvinced. "Let's set aside the fact that the sect leader of the Thunder God and Mother sect once killed 3 grandmasters in a row. His obsession with listening to thunder and his nomadic lifestyle, always following thunder, makes it not easy for you to find him, as he does not come looking for you." "What about the Red House? Surely the Tower Master of the Red House can't be nomadic?" Duan Yun asked. The Murong brothers wore an ugly expression and said, "You, who know nothing, are you planning to actively go and take down the Tower Master of the Red House?" Duan Yun said with righteousness. "Of course. Am I supposed to wait for them to come at me?" Xin Ying thoughtfully said, "You know, if those 3 Tower Masters target you, it'll definitely be troublesome. Even if you won't die, you'll be skinned." Duan Yun, interested in this martial world knowledge, asked, "Are they that hard to deal with?" "It's more than being difficult to deal with. These 3 women's mirror flower water moon and star-shifting immortal laws are said to be so powerful that there's no one in the world they can't deceive. It won't be easy to intimidate them with your reputation as Old Demon Duan. You should know that before, several young and promising heavenly prides from reputable sects, even 2 young sect masters under the watch of their elders at their sects, were abducted and taken advantage of. It seems we 3 alone might not be enough to stand against them." As a young, handsome hero, Duan Yun instinctively felt threatened. Damn it, if he were to be kidnapped and dishonored, what then? "No, I must find a way to kill them all. Slaughter them all." So he couldn't help but curiously ask, "The Tower Master of the Red House even abused the heavenly prides and young sect masters of big sects? Don't those sects exterminate them?" "They tried, but all failed," said Xin Ying. "Failed? How can a united effort of great sects not bring down the Red House?" Duan Yun exclaimed in surprise. "They couldn't." "Why?" "Because the Red House is very powerful and terrifying in itself, a forbidden place for Jianghu people, and it doesn't stay in one place." "Huh! The Red House, the most mysterious and terrifying building in the martial world, never stays fixed in one place. Sometimes it is by the sea, sometimes on a mountain, sometimes on the outskirts of a city. By the time you gather your people, the Red House has already moved elsewhere. The major sects have their own serious business to attend to. They can't just drop everything, stop earning money, and go stake out a place. Can they?" Hearing this, Duan Yun exclaimed in surprise, "Is the Red House very small? It can be moved so easily." "The Red House is 32 floors high. Each floor is extremely spacious, complete with front and back gardens. There are not many buildings in the world that can be larger than it." "How does it move around?" Duan Yun asked, as curious as a child. Because it is a mansion that can move. The Red House fairy kills and debauches, yet very few people dare to deny their title as fairies. This is because both their martial arts and the mansion are inconceivable, as if they do not belong to this mortal world. That vermilion-painted tall building, capable of vanishing overnight and then rebuilt in one night, is an existence even the Mo sect cannot catch up with. Listening to these tales, Duan Yun realized that the martial world was deeper and more magical than he had imagined. The Red House was also more formidable and trickier than he thought. It seems that to exterminate all the Red House fairies would be a huge undertaking. Firstly, the idea of perfecting my divine skill and then directly visiting to wipe them out cleanly is not feasible, because the Red House has no fixed sect entrance. No wonder he never heard where the entrance of the Red House was located. Old Demon Duan was grinding his teeth for a moment, then said, "Can't find this, can't handle that. Right, the 12 star signs with so many people, surely I can handle them, right? Especially that Zhu Haimian who even declared they'd mess with me. I'll show them. I'll kill that evil demon and restore my reputation as a young hero." Hearing him say this, Xin Ying and the Murong brothers were silent for a while. Eventually, the Murong brothers tried to persuade him, "You should also be cautious with the 12 star signs, right?" Duan Yun defiantly said, "Who here do I not need to be cautious with?" "There is no one," the Murong brothers replied decisively. Duan Yun was speechless and said, "Am I, young hero Duan, really that poor?" "You are not poor. The reputation of old Demon Duan is even quite renowned. But after all, you are a newcomer. The reputation of the 12 star signs was as prominent as yours a long time ago, even more prominent than yours. During the battle at the graveyard, your indiscriminate killing did not make it easy to kill the peacock, right?" The Murong brothers said. Duan Yun admitted honestly, "It wasn't easy. If it weren't for your help, I probably wouldn't have been able to kill him at that time." The storytellers say that because the 12 star signs were friends with the peacock demon, they want to clean you up. But I know another version. Actually, the peacock demon is the concubine of the leader of the 12 star signs, Shu Wuxin. To put it another way, the peacock demon is their elder sister-in-law, and since you killed their elder sister-in-law, isn't it reasonable for them to come after you? The Murong brothers explained. Duan Yun blinked and said, "Wait a minute. Although the peacock demon looks handsome, he is, right, he's a man, a demon known for debauching women, notorious even among imperial concubines. Someone like that wouldn't like men. But still, he became Shu Wuxin's concubine and was assaulted by him. What does that tell us?" Duan Yun pondered and said, "It means he was forced, left with no choice." From this, Duan Yun roughly understood the weight of the 12 star signs. The peacock demon, who had been evenly matched with him, was forced to become a concubine to the rat, reluctantly violated by him. It just goes to show how many evil demons there are in this world. Duan Yun nodded and said, "Okay, I understand. Once my sword is forged, I'll take on the 12 star signs." Having said this, he left to practice his swordsmanship. Xin Ying and the Murong brothers looked dumbfounded. The Murong brothers couldn't help saying, "Did I just hear wrong? After all, I said, he wants to take on the 12 star signs." Xin Ying replied, "You heard correctly. I thought I was mishearing it myself." "He's so unreasonable," the Murong brothers complained. Xin Ying answered, "Maybe it's only someone as unreasonable as him. Someone who turns a young hero into an old demon. Maybe it's only someone like him who dares to take on the 12 star signs." At night, the Murong brothers were suddenly awakened by a commotion. Rotation! Damn those 9 layers of spring rain rotation! Hearing this familiar phrase, the Murong brothers showed a look of terror, and with lifeless eyes, said, "It's happening again?" Chapter 102. A brand new move, Love Unlimited. Previously at night, Duan Yun would generally cultivate in the courtyard by absorbing moonlight. Tonight, however, he was on the graveyard. At this moment, as he absorbed the moonlight, Little Yu was absorbing death energy as well. It had to be said, this graveyard had become his feng shui treasure land. Here, Not only did he achieve victory through a bloody battle against a horde of demons, but he also subsequently comprehended the breaking body sword energy and cultivated Little Yu. But that still wasn't enough. Thinking about the 12 star signs that forced Peacock Demon into becoming a concubine and threatened to take care of him, those 3 merciless men from Red House and the madman who cast demon electricity around, as well as the evil demons running rampant in the martial world and the malevolent forces that kept framing him. Duan Yun was greatly anxious, so much so that he ate half a bowl less for dinner tonight. This was a serious problem. To be able to eat well, he must continue to grow stronger, and then kill them. Since the 12 star signs threatened to kill him, he would take the initiative and target them first. No, it wasn't enough to just kill them, but before he did, he would use the Biming divine skill to drain their inner strength, making them nourishment for his own empowerment. For a valiant young hero to use evil demons as nourishment, this was both heroic and completely justified. I, Mr. Duan, young hero Duan, am simply not killing fiercely enough to have my name celebrated far and wide. Then, let the 12 star signs become his stepping stones. Rotate. Rotate. Inside Duan Yun, the spring rain blade energy was spinning wildly, creating an odd current that continuously stimulated his body's cells. At this time, Duan Yun was in a state of both pain and pleasure. The pain came from the constant shocks of electricity causing his muscles to spasm, while the pleasure, being electrified, was a kind of thrill. Those who are often zapped by electricity and those who are often in love both know that tingly, numbing feeling is almost akin to falling in love. Since that's the case, might as well continue, let the love unlimited. At this moment, Duan Yun's body was slightly arched, and every muscle quivered in response. If this mix of pain and pleasure, similar to love unlimited, was akin to accumulating water, then now that water had reached the brink of breaking the dam. Suddenly, Duan Yun entered an unprecedented state of clarity, understanding the path of the demon electricity within his body. It needed to rotate, causing every muscle and cell throughout his body to rotate with it. At this point, Duan Yun had reached his limit. So, let it rotate. Rotate. With a sudden shout, it was as if a storm had burst forth. This time, not only was the spring rain blade energy spiraling in layers, but Duan Yun's own body and the Dharma image Little Yu, as well. His body was in a strange tremble, blending him almost seamlessly with the swirling sword light. Little Yu unification. 8 layers of spring rain unification. Unify. Unify. The terrifying sword chi rose like a tornado from the ground. This time, the swirling spring rain was not being slashed out from the blade, but was blossoming from within Duan Yun himself. If this terrifying sword wind was a storm, then Duan Yun was the eye of that storm. The eye of the storm. Wish, 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 wish. Nearby gravestones, mounds, and dark bamboo were all swept up by the sword wind, flying into the sky. And so, in the eyes of the Murong brothers and Shen Ying, a bunch of graves ascended. Holy shit! Immortals, demons? Originally, the Murong brothers thought they had grown accustomed to shocking events, but at this moment, they still couldn't help but be greatly shocked and gasp in astonishment. From high above, the multilayered rotations of the spring rain blade light looked like a terrifying vortex. At this time, the 9 layers of spring rain transformed, forming 9 distinct levels. And so, the 9 layers of sword light instantly became like 9 sharp rotating grinding wheels, intending to shred and grind through everything within its radius. Boom! The ascended heaps of graves and tombstones, along with the black bamboo, were shredded into pieces in an instant. Duan Yun continued unfazed, sweeping up towards the mountain. Rumbling, a massive ravine formed on the hillside. At the center of the vortex, Duan Yun and the Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal became one, like lovers whose distance turned negative. They had transformed into a collective shadow, and around them swirled a terrifying tornado of sword chi. Yes, they themselves had become part of the spinning sword chi. The core. Tonight there were stars, their light seemingly crushed, as even from a great distance, The force carried by the spinning sword wind caused faces to sting with pain. Thud! The ground and buildings trembled. Even the townsfolk of Yushur town, at a distance, were startled awake. An earthquake? A landslide? No, that was Duan Yun spinning and leaping. With every spinning fall, a large crater appeared on the ground. Everything around was whirled into disarray. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Within the spinning spring rain soared light. Suddenly, the power of thunder emerged. Damned bandit! Still not enough. Duan Yun bellowed. Thus, within the spinning tornado of sword chi, black sword chi with a buzzing sound erupted from time to time. That was the breaking body sword energy colliding everywhere. The Murong brothers' hairstyles were messed up by the terrifying vibrations. Looking at the graveyard that seemed about to explode, he lamented. He said he'd tackle the 12 star signs for dinner. I thought he was nuts, but now I realize I'm the crazy one. Ah! Moonlight Jade Sword True Chi. Absorb it. Suddenly, the Murong brothers began to stand in a horse stance, hands pointing skyward, and milky white moonlight poured into their bodies as if costless. Ah! I'm also one in a million, a cultivation genius. I too will master both the sword and saber. With this, I can grab my sister and heal her. For a time, the mad shouts of two men echoed from the mountaintop and the foot of the hill, like the howling of ghosts and wolves in the vibrating night. Shining looked on in shock at all this, sighing, "Mad! They're all mad. Those who train with the demon blade really do go insane." In the future, there would be 2 lunatics and just 1 sane person in Yuju Villa. Whether that was good remained to be seen. That night, the tremors on the graveyard lasted for the time it took to brew 2 cups of tea before stopping. Duan Yun lay in the huge black pit he had stirred up, his body emitting white smoke. He felt as though his entire body was hollowed out. Every inch of flesh seemed to ache, but he laughed. I'm indeed a 1 in a million cultivation genius. Even I'm afraid of my own ferocity. Indeed, this wasn't the 9 layers of spring rain described by the Murong brothers, nor the ominous 10 layers of spring rain that shocked the gods and wailed to the ghosts. He used Little Yu as armor, like piloting a mecha, turning himself and Little Yu into a link of spring rain sword chi, rotating together, leading the sword chi. This was something the 12 layers of spring rain didn't describe. This was his very own innovative technique. Duan Yun felt continuous muscle spasms and the sensation of being electrocuted, while experiencing the continuous envelopment by Little Yu. As if his body spasmed yet still in love, wanting to love even in death, perpetually in the illusion of being shocked. If so, this technique shall be called Love Unlimited. Duan Yun endured the muscle spasms, crawling out of the hole, and was utterly exhausted. Even Little Yu was tired, morphing into a faint ring wrapped around his waist. Tonight was too intense. When Duan Yun struggled, almost crawling back to the mountain villa, he saw the Murong brothers still voraciously absorbing the moonlight. Duan Yun, lying on the ground, exclaimed, "You went all out tonight as well?" The Murong brothers looked at him and said, "Yes." No sooner had the words left his mouth than his eyes and nose bled. He fell backward stiffly, then thudded to the ground, making a bang. "Catch, sister, to heal her." With that, he stiffly passed out. Chapter 103. The Temptation of Treasure Hunting. In the backyard, Shining had already dug a hole. She went back to the front yard, looked at the Murong brothers under the eaves and said, "It's time to bury him. It's been 2 days and nights." Duan Yun had a complex expression. Now, except for the brothers' own issues, Murong brothers were rigid all over, combined with bleeding from all orifices. It really wasn't much different from having dropped dead. Duan Yun couldn't help but say with emotion, "I never thought that after such an incident, he would just go like this. What will his sisters do now?" Xin Ying's eyebrows slightly furrowed as she asked, "Are you still thinking of taking care of them for him?" "Of course. I'm a doctor. Those who can be cured I'll treat in the cellar, and those who can't be cured, I'll just have to act for heaven then." Duan Yun said seriously, "Don't do it." Suddenly, the Murong brothers sprang upright. as if resurrected from the dead. Shunning tisk-tisk in amazement. He hasn't practiced the 9 death silkworms. Yet he also managed to feign death and come back to life. Duan Yun nodded. This must be the power of his sister. Murong, still bleeding from all orifices, sat upright. In this gloomy weather, he looked somewhat terrifying. What exactly happened to you? Duan Yun couldn't help but ask. For the past 2 days, apart from a faint heartbeat, the Murong brothers seemed no different from being dead. No matter how much they pounded or kneaded him, his heart rate restored, he remained rigid. The way he suddenly woke up was also very abrupt. Murong brothers said, I don't know either. I felt like I was in complete darkness. There was nothing around, until I heard you talking about my sister. Ah, I need to catch my sister to treat her. Suddenly, the Murong brothers began to shout loudly again. Duan Yun shouted back, If you need to catch your sister, just catch her. Why are you yelling so loudly? Because I'm so hot, Murong brothers roared. Shining, watching the two yelling, walked away with a face full of disdain. At that time, Murong brothers suddenly made a sword finger gesture and roared, Jade sword finger! Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Murong raised his hand and shot out dozens of jade sword finger sword energy. Thus the walls, roof, and doors instantly got several more holes. With a bang, some of the holes caught fire, igniting the doors and windows. You actually set the house on fire, Shin Ying exclaimed in shock. Duan Yun also moved away from Murong brothers a bit, and exclaimed similarly, And it's his own room. Murong brothers suddenly realized, excitedly said, My room? Ah, put out the fire. The house was originally made mostly of wood, and the recent renovations used bamboo, so the fire suddenly intensified. Murong brothers, like a madman, rushed to the backyard, carrying a water tank to rescue it, while Duan Yun and Shin Ying still watched the spectacle. It wasn't their room on fire, no need to be so agitated. Murong brothers used his hand as a sword. Thus, with sword chi, he charged towards the flames. Whoosh! Because of the strong force, the flames were extinguished in an instant, but Murong brothers entered the room, looked at the empty roof and said, Where's my roof? My big roof. Duan Yun laughed and said, Not bad. Now it's an open-air mansion. Murong brothers suddenly collapsed, reverting to a lying flat position, appearing utterly disheartened. Duan Yun, seeing the traces of the fire, couldn't help but remark, Your sword finger even carries fire now? How did you manage that? Murong brothers looked at Duan Yun like a wronged little woman and said, You taught me the swordsmanship, and you're asking me? Murong brothers had to admit, he had been deeply marked by Duan Yun. The madness in practicing skills, the idea to proactively go capture his sister for treatment, all were influenced by Duan Yun. Duan Yun has a kind of magic unknowingly affecting you. Autumn had reached its end, and the weather was getting colder, but Murong brothers still lived in that open-air mansion. Sometimes seeing him wrapped in a straw mat, both Duan Yun and Shin Ying felt sympathy. But this was his own choice. Due to his practice of Jade Sword True Understanding, he tended to overheat. He's been both lazy and diligent lately. Laziness is his nature, but so is treating his sister's illness. So when both traits intertwined, a peculiar style was formed. For example, he would frequently practice his standing meditation while lying down, already snoring in sleep, yet still able to absorb the moonlight. This made Duan Yun truly impressed. However, as the weather turned colder, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers became poorer and poorer. One would go after the 12 star signs while the other sought to treat his sister, but to do anything, they first needed to know where to go. In Wangchun City, there were special intelligence organizations selling information, yet information in martial world was always expensive, so Duan Yun and the Murong brothers spent quite a bit. Especially the Murong brothers, Duan Yun had initially managed some money for them, but because the medical costs for Fu Wanjun were charged to their account, they ended up owing Duan Yun 200 silver. While Shining, who didn't need to buy information, had become the wealthiest person in the villa. As a woman, her biggest hobby was shopping for food, drinks, and new clothes. Every time she went out, if she didn't bring home something new, Duan Yun and the Murong brothers would feel uneasy. But today she brought back a monkey. Seeing the golden snub-nosed monkey that was brought back, the Murong brothers exclaimed in surprise, "Why did you buy a monkey?" Shining replied, "I didn't buy it. I found it." Found it? Duan Yun looked at the unconscious monkey, puzzled. "Yes, it just fainted on the way back, so I picked it up," Shining explained. At that moment, the monkey suddenly opened its eyes, struggled a bit, then collapsed like Lin Dayu. Duan Yun felt like he was seeing monkey after he was burnt by Red Boy, utterly weak. The Murong brothers wondered, "It didn't faint from hunger, did it?" The monkey seemed to understand him and nodded. Shining said, "What do monkeys usually eat?" "We don't have any bananas or apples." Duan Yun nodded. "There's just some cabbage left in the kitchen." Unexpectedly, the monkey nodded again, indicating that cabbage was fine too. Then they watched as the monkey ate an entire cabbage and then bowed to them after finishing. The monkey was quite polite. Duan Yun felt this golden snub-nosed monkey, undoubtedly a delightful type of monkey, should stay. Thus, in Yuzhu Villa, besides the donkey Little Gray, there was now a monkey. The monkey was quite sensible, sometimes bringing back gifts from outside, like wild pears, apples, hawthorns, and even once brought back 2 fish. One day, the monkey suddenly grabbed Duan Yun's hand and pointed towards the graveyard. Shining said, "You want to lead us to find something nice, right?" The golden snub-nosed monkey nodded in agreement. The Murong brothers couldn't resist saying, "Good people reap good rewards. This might just turn into a fortune." Duan Yun suggested, "Why not follow it and see?" The Murong brothers shook their heads. "I'm not going. You're the poorest among us, still owing me 200 silver, and you're passing up this chance to make a fortune?" Duan Yun challenged. Indeed, information was costly, and they had spent hundreds of silver just to purchase information about a sister and 2 star signs. Duan Yun was particularly interested in the information about Zhu Haimian. Though he wasn't vengeful, this guy was the first to clamor about torturing him ruthlessly, and how could young hero Duan not strike first to disappoint this pig? Logically, the Murong brothers, like himself, lacked silver and wanted to get rich. "I just want to practice diligently now, and I'll go find my sister once we have the information." "So, you mean you don't want to repay the money?" "My sister is rich." Duan Yun looked at him. "I didn't expect you to think so clearly." Even if the Murong brothers weren't going, Duan Yun was. Let alone the matter of getting rich. Just having a monkey lead you treasure hunting during the waiting period for information was quite amusing. It's like a treasure chest underwater. Who could resist the temptation? Certainly, he couldn't. So Duan Yun went, and so did Shining. They were eager to see what treasures monkey was going to lead them to. Chapter 104. Did young hero Duan get the lead role script? Golden snub-nosed monkey left the mountain villa and walked straight along the foot of the graveyard mountain, passing by the pond where Shining had bathed before. Further on, wild grass and wild trees grew densely. Now in deep autumn, the wild grass had become a golden color, resembling gold spread on the ground under the setting sun. The wild trees growing in the wild grass had few leaves left on their branches, like the hair on a middle-aged man's head, unable to be retained no matter how much one wanted to. Of course, there were still many graves around this area. Duan Yun and Shining had never been here before. Or rather, there were no paths here at all, it was desolate. Monkey led them walking along the foot of the graveyard mountain, and eventually even the graves disappeared. That is to say, they were almost out of graveyard's range. This was also the first time both of them got some idea of the scale of this graveyard mountain. It was really big. Duan Yun originally wanted to complain about the long route, but at that moment, the monkey made a strange cry. This, however, stunned Duan Yun a bit. Ahead, the path which was originally flat suddenly had a cliff. From here, the cliff was bottomless, with clouds swirling below. This change was truly a masterpiece of nature. If one was not careful, they would fall off the cliff, shattering to pieces. Some pine trees stubbornly grew on the cliff. At this moment, the monkey leaped downward, using the pine trees as stepping stones, heading towards the cliff. Duan Yun and Shining followed with their movement techniques. For a moment, Duan Yun experienced the thrill similar to bungee jumping. The mountain wind blew against them, causing their robes to flap loud and the clouds swirling beneath their feet. The cliff was bottomless, not knowing where it led. After about 50 zhang in height, the monkey elegantly jumped and landed on a protruding rock on the cliff. Behind the rock was a cave half covered by vines. For a moment, Duan Yun felt like they had arrived at a place in a martial arts novel where the protagonist accidentally falls off a cliff and acquires divine skills. Duan Yun and Shining followed the monkey into the cave. The cave was dimly lit, with strange rocks in the center making it difficult to see the depths clearly. There was some stagnant water on the ground at the entrance of the cave, reflecting a faint gleam. After monkey bypassed 2 rocks, it emitted a squeaking noise. In the next moment, Duan Yun and Shining were both stunned, and Duan Yun even raised his elbow, ready to unleash elbow sword at any moment. A tall figure loomed there. No, Duan Yun and Shining then realized that the figure was not standing but sitting. Merely sitting, and yet almost as tall as they were standing. It was an exceptionally tall white ape, with eyes wide open, leaning against a rock wall. Duan Yun moved a bit closer and, with his observation as a gynecologist, he noticed the white ape was already dead. A faint smell of blood permeated the air, blending with the dim surroundings. At this moment, the golden snub-nosed monkey pointed towards the belly of the white ape. Shining walked over first and asked in confusion, "What?" The golden snub-nosed monkey then pointed towards the abdomen of the ape. Even though it was already dead, the tall white ape still gave a great sense of oppression. "What is this?" Duan Yun walked over and said, "Traces of stitching. Its stomach was once cut open and then sewn back up." As a professional gynecologist, he could understand this. This plot. The golden snub-nosed monkey continued pointing at the belly of the white ape, waving its arms. "Is the treasure inside?" Shun Ing translated. Monkey nodded. Duan Yun pulled out one row and gently made a cut, slicing open the belly of the white ape. "There really is something," Shun Ing exclaimed in surprise. Duan Yun picked it out, extracting a blood-drenched large bamboo tube. Then the lid of the bamboo tube was lifted, revealing a booklet rolled inside. In the dim environment, he squinted and saw, conspicuously written on the booklet, "Romantic toy" in large characters. "What toy?" Duan Yun exclaimed, somewhat baffled. Since entering this cliffside cave, he always thought he was carrying Zheng Aniu's script, but now the theme seemed to have abruptly changed. Romantic toy sounded somewhat improper, similar to his collection, The Fall of the Goddess Constable. But who would go to the boredom of sealing a colored book inside the belly of a white ape? This white ape's fur was wilted, and it looked to have been dead for some time without any signs of decay. Plus its tremendously large body brought a sense of supernatural terror. This white ape must have encountered something extraordinary. It probably became a spirit before it died. Duan Yun took Romantic Toy out of the cave, stood on the stone platform and started perusing it to see if there were any illustrations. After a while, he realized he might still be holding Zheng Aniu's script. "This is actually a finger technique," Duan Yun exclaimed in amazement. Shuning glanced at the title page and commented, "Romantic Toy. This indeed is a divine skill." "What?" Duan Yun asked, puzzled. "Have you ever heard of the person named Heavenly Clothes Charm Wang Fengfeng?" Shining inquired. "Wang Fengfeng? No, Wang Fengfeng." Seeing Duan Yun looking confused, Shining knew he hadn't heard of him and suggested, "Let Murong explain it to you when we get back." Duan Yun asked in confusion, "Why don't you tell me? I'm thirsty, and I don't want to talk." Shining replied, "We've walked such a long way, and I forgot to bring water. Aren't you thirsty?" Duan Yun nodded and said, "I'm not just thirsty, I'm also a bit hungry." Right then, he couldn't help but speak towards the cave entrance, addressing Monkey. "Monkey, is that it? If that's all, let's head back." Monkey nodded and then led them back. The pitch-black cave suddenly returned to silence, appearing deep and mysterious. In the evening, the golden snub-nosed monkey came back alone. It passed by the huge corpse of the white ape without any halt, heading straight deeper into the cave. In the pitch-black cave, there hid a crevice just wide enough for a person to advance. The golden snub-nosed monkey crawled through. A moment later, the space ahead suddenly opened up, but just then, the monkey's body stiffened. In the cave beyond the crevice, two people were squatting. One had a string of bright red tubercles atop their head, looking like a chicken's crown. Cruel? You call this cruel? The man with bright eyes fiercely sucked once more, and a hollow echo came from the skull of the monkey, sounding extremely creepy. When I suck old Demon Duan, I'll show you what cruelty is. As he spoke, he revealed a smile, his vivid gum showing out in the dim cave, looking incredibly creepy. Chapter 105. This cultivation technique is both righteous and evil, only I can control it. Within the cave, the golden snub-nosed monkey had already returned. Of course, in the depths of this mysterious cave were none other than Chicken Face Ji Sikhen and Monkey Face Monkey Wuya. Waving his hand, Monkey Wuya summoned the golden snub-nosed monkey, which had just returned from Yuju Villa and walked over both fearfully and obediently. Beside it lay the body of another of its kind, its brain freshly sucked out. Monkey Wuya, revealing his white teeth while petting the monkey's head, looked exceptionally kind. Ji Sikhen spoke up, "Monkey, do you think old Demon Duan will fall for your trick?" With a grin, Monkey Wuya replied, "Our great mountain sword sect leader Chen Shanhe and Wind and Rain Tower's second tower master Yun Shueshing any less than old Demon Duan? Ha ha ha, you make a good point. It really isn't easy for martial artists not to fall into your trap. Your trick of sewing the secret book inside the lion white ape's belly is simply brilliant. Even Yun Shueshing, the brains of Wind and Rain Tower, couldn't escape your machinations?" Ji Sikhen remarked with a cackling voice, sounding very much like a chicken. "It can't be helped. How many skilled martial artists aren't arrogant? Each one of them, upon seeing the secret book inside the lion white ape's belly, believes they are the chosen one, destined to treasure it. And after all, the secret book is indeed genuine." After eating his fill, Monkey Wuya felt very satisfied. "It's genuine?" exclaimed Ji Sikhen, surprised. "Of course it's genuine. Wang Fengfeng was indeed my maternal uncle, but I only managed to obtain a partial copy of the secret book. Why, are you interested in learning it?" the monkey suddenly asked. Ji Sikhen let out a gaggling laugh reminiscent of a chicken's cackle and said, "As if I'd want to learn that. We're all brothers here, so I won't do you harm. Nobody can cultivate from this partial copy, and it only drives people mad. After my continual testing of poisons, this romantic toy can now turn the brains of those who cultivate it into mush." As he spoke, Monkey Wuya showed a greedy expression inside. "Over the years, I've sucked the brains of many sect masters of sword sects, Lin Shui Fairy, 100 refined divine constables, life-stealing scholars. Don't even mention it. The brains of intelligent people are exceptionally tasty, a flavor that lingers. After sucking Yun Shueshing's brain, not only did my power greatly increase, but I also developed a poetic flair and started reciting poetry. After absorbing the life-stealing scholar's brain, I even learned to do arithmetic, something I was worst at before." At that moment, Monkey Wuya looked towards Ji Sikhen and said, "It's said that a chicken's brain is the smallest and most essence-filled. I wonder what it tastes like." Ji Sikhen burst into laughter, with the chicken crown atop his head shaking. "Why don't you give it a try? Forget it. Forget it. Chicken brains are said to be poisonous, and you, this dead chicken, are known to be the most toxic of all. After 2.5 years, I can't imagine how much more poisonous you've become. Rat Leader has disappeared, and in the end, it's just the two of us who upheld our loyalty. After the sister-in-law was cruelly killed by old Demon Duan, that pig was the most vehement. But in the end, only the two of us showed up." Monkey Wuya sighed. Shaking his head, Ji Sikhen said, "That pig was always the most selfish, always eager to curry favor when the big brother was around, always the loudest and the fastest to run. So tell me, How many days will it take for old demon Duan to become a fool from practicing your maternal uncle's cultivation technique? I don't know. The higher the talent, the faster it happens. The smartest, Yun Shueshing, took 7 days. If he's not too stupid, it would take 10 days to a half-month for his brain to turn to water, explained Monkey Wuya. While speaking, he gently stroked the little head of the golden snub-nosed monkey and tenderly said, "Go and keep an eye on things. Once the old demon is reduced to a wreck, come and let me know. Brains are best eaten fresh." The golden snub-nosed monkey nodded carefully. Inside Yuzhu Villa, Duan Yun was listening to the Murong brothers talk about the charmer Wang Fengfeng. Wang Fengfeng is indeed the most enviable prodigy of the past century. As they spoke of this person, the Murong brothers' eyes seemed to change. Wang Fengfeng is known as Heavenly Clothes Charm and is famous in the martial world for his finger technique and Qinggong movement technique. His finger technique is so versatile that it can bring his numerous lady loves unparalleled happiness, an absolutely enrapturing experience, and yet it can cause his enemies unbearable pain, a fate worse than death. At that time, a saying circulated in the martial world: "The happiest thing is to become a friend of Wang Fengfeng, especially his female and male confidants, because he can make you feel absolutely blissful, as if ascending to the heavens. The most terrifying thing, on the other hand, is to become Wang Fengfeng's enemy, as he will send you plunging into hell, a fate worse than death." Listening to the Murong brothers, Duan Yun's mind stalled for a moment and he said, "About this finger technique, am I thinking about it the wrong way?" Murong brothers decisively said, "No, you're not thinking about it the wrong way. This truly is a divine skill finger technique that can make people feel absolutely blissful or plunge them into the depths of hell. Heavenly Clothes Charm Wang Fengfeng's lady loves include both the evil woman of the demon Tao and fairies of the righteous path. His friends range from prominent noble families to local demons. These people who are originally incompatible as fire and water, even those who have blood feuds, can live in harmony with each other as long as Wang Fengfeng is around, with even more harmony than the emperor's harem thanks to his finger technique. That's the magic of Wang Fengfeng's finger technique." At this moment, Duan Yun finally realized why Shining was unwilling to discuss these matters with him. And even now, she wasn't joining in the excitement. It would indeed be rather awkward to have a woman explain the wonders of this finger technique. No, the finger technique itself is just plain wrong. Damn hooligan. But it all depends on who wields the technique. In the hands of a young hero like himself, brimming with heroic spirit, it would only serve to nurture the world, making the martial world a better place. Hence, Duan Yun decided to sacrifice his precious time to practice this finger technique. However, when he went to look for the secret book, he found that the Murong brothers had beaten him to it, eagerly picking up the book to examine. Duan Yun snatched it back, saying, "What are you doing? I want to learn this," stated the Murong brothers with an earnest face. Duan Yun flatly refused. This cultivation technique is both righteous and evil, deep and unfathomable. Only a 1 in a million cultivation genius or a hero with true integrity could possibly grasp it fully. Clearly, you don't have what it takes. "I can grasp it," the Murong brothers said excitedly. Yes, this really is a divine skill that men find hard to resist. 100 years after Wang Fengfeng, his unique skills vanished without a trace. It turns out that this genius had the whimsical idea to sew them into the belly of a lion-white ape. No wonder no one could find it. Looking at the Murong brothers, Duan Yun said, "But this secret book was found by Shen Ying and me. We invited you to join us, and you declined." "I." The Murong brothers were momentarily at a loss for words. He was always someone who made sense, and what Duan Yun said was quite reasonable. He had no claim to this secret book. So, he could only watch helplessly as Duan Yun took the secret book away to study, feeling a sense of helplessness similar to when his sister Fu Wanjun was dragged into the cellar, and he could do nothing but watch. "Hey, big brother, hero, old demon, you must teach it to me once you've learned it. This concerns my happiness." "I got it," said Duan Yun impatiently. By this time, he had already opened the secret book and was looking at it even more intently. Sure enough, the opening chapter of this romantic toy was indeed a finger technique called Finger Strength Charm. Chapter 106. Extraordinary Wisdom, Reverse Training Divine Skill. Duan Yun looked at flirtatious finger strength and quickly became engrossed in it. In terms of finger techniques, he considered himself half an expert, or else shadow goddess Lang Yiming wouldn't have had so many unwarranted associations. Duan Yun initially thought he played finger techniques well enough, but this flirtatious finger strength still brought out some new tricks. If before, Duan Yun's jade sword finger was about stabbing and piercing, penetrating everything, and he could even curve his finger sword energy with the help of the jade sword immortal dharma, then the finger technique of flirtatious finger strength was all about vibrating. The vibrating of shaking. Despite having previous finger techniques as a basis, Duan Yun still encountered a tough challenge with this flirtatious finger strength. It was obvious that this secret book was only half complete, not to mention it was mixed with a lot of dialects. What's with ego de man gone, Xingzhen? Why does it have a hint of Shangxi flavor? For a moment, Duan Yun imagined a lay person holding a folding fan, exuding heavenly clothes charm, speaking with a zhai lai, ego de God, mi ma da mannerism, feeling a weird twang to it. Some of the simple dialects he knew or could guess, but for the more obscure ones, he had to skip and utilize his 1 in 10,000 talent for connecting context to speculate the meaning. All in all, after finishing half the book of flirtatious finger strength, Duan Yun just wanted to shout, "Ego de God Lu!" It was clearly an incomplete secret book, mixed with a lot of dialect, requiring him to guess the meanings on his own. But this was no problem for Duan Yun. He could understand tadpole script. Comprehending this was a piece of cake. Who says I'm not a 1 in 10,000 cultivation genius? About an hour later, Duan Yun, after some sweet talking and hard thinking, grasped the essence of flirtatious finger strength. He and the Murong brothers had really thought too much into it. This finger technique was not what they imagined. Flirtatious finger strength was about using finger strength to cause vibrations, which then changed the body's meridians. So-called medical martial arts are interrelated. Duan Yun even felt that it had the wonderful effect of easing the flow of meridians like a martial arts enhanced version of a foot reflexology massage. However, once this finger technique reaches a certain level, its effects will undergo a qualitative change. For instance, if the finger strength is too fierce and the trembling frequency and intensity too strong, then the pleasant sensation of unblocking the meridians is unparalleled. Similar, the pain that comes with distorting meridians increases manifold, which is very terrifying. This is why being friends with Wang Fengfeng and especially becoming his confidant would feel exhilarating, while being his enemy would make life worse than death. At least, that's how he understood it. Wang Fengfeng is gone, and the secret book has just re-emerged. So now he is the authority on flirtatious finger strength. Or rather, the new benchmark. Among the living, no one understands flirtatious finger strength better than him. As long as he puts more effort into pondering and understanding, innovating himself, even if Wang Fengfeng was resurrected one day, he might not be more knowledgeable about flirtatiousness than him. Now that he had grasped the essence of flirtatious finger strength, it was time for Duan Yun to put it into practice. Jianli Yuan Guan, Ju Ke. Tongli, Lai Ke. Duan Yun's true qi flowed through his body according to the sequence in the secret book, faster and faster. Flirtatious. With a swish, a stream of finger strength shot out from his fingertip, as usual, striking the old tree in the backyard. The old tree shuddered like a living person, and its roots buried underground all burst forth. Is this exhilaration or pain? Duan Yun was puzzled. Then he felt a bit of stuffiness in his head. The timing of Duan Yun's brain shaking began much earlier than Monkey Wuya had predicted. He speculated that old demon Duan's progress wouldn't be much faster than Yun Shueshing. After all, Yun Shueshing had the smartest brain he had ever absorbed. It took Yun Shueshing 7 days, while Duan Yun only took half a day. Duan Yun had no one to compare with and felt his progress was just mediocre, even not quite satisfactory, given that he had already entered the door with his finger techniques. So, taking advantage of the time before dinner, he vibrated again, once more activating the flirtatious finger strength. This time, Duan Yun felt it more concretely. He discovered that at the instant flirtatious finger strength was activated, his body had already started to tremble on its own accord. Indeed, it wasn't just the fingers that were trembling, but the entire body, especially at the moment when finger strength burst forth from the fingertips. This trembling even rushed straight to his head in one go. After activating flirtatious finger strength for the second time, his head was already starting to ache. This was supposed to shake others first but ended up shaking oneself first. How did it become 7 injuries fist? No, this definitely isn't right. Although the secret book describes hurting oneself first before hurting others. The deeper the pain, the more flirtatious the finger strength becomes. Duan Yun felt something was off. Indeed, even if it were correct, he couldn't continue practicing like this. If one had to first suffer a headache before mastery, then no matter how much flirtatiousness one achieves later, it wouldn't work. It would harm his extraordinary wisdom. Not to damage his extraordinary wisdom, that was his bottom line. Even if hurting his head was the correct way to practice flirtatious finger strength, he wouldn't continue down that path. He would find another way. To martial artists, even for the prodigies of the heavenly pride, it would be extremely impressive to be able to practice solely according to the secret book without making any mistakes. So they wouldn't even entertain ideas like Duan Yun's. In their view, such blind experimentation is the most dangerous. It's the standard route to deviating from the way and entering into madness, something only those with unsound minds would attempt. But Duan Yun was different. He was confident in his belief that he was a 1-in-a-million cultivation genius. And numerous examples had told him that he truly was a 1-in-a-million cultivation genius, without a doubt. He hadn't practiced the sword before, yet mastered the jade sword true understanding. He hadn't practiced the saber, yet learned the 12 layers of spring rain. In the process, he even innovated and created his own techniques such as breaking body sword energy, death energy, breaking body sword energy, toe sword, elbow sword, love unlimited, and so on. Duan Yun pinched his fingers, not circulating true qi this time, but reminiscing on the strange tremor he had just felt. He had to admit Wang Fengfeng was also a genius for being able to explore such a bizarre shaking force. The 2 applications of flirtatious finger strength he just practiced left his head buzzing, and an old tree shaking to the point of uprooting. He didn't know what it would feel like if this shaking was applied to a person's body. While he was thinking about all this, he gently swayed his index and middle fingers, walking back. On the way, he encountered Shining wearing a goose-yellow long dress. This woman bought a new outfit, and under the tight long skirt, she still exuded a radiant beauty of a beautiful body. Aside from the chest making one collected, other aspects were quite tempting. At that moment, Shining, seeing how Duan Yun was manipulating his fingers, became alert as if facing a formidable enemy, and said, "What are you trying to do?" Duan Yun frowned and said, "I'm not doing anything. Even thinking about it is wrong. Even thinking is a mistake. Pervert." With that, she crossed her legs tightly and covered her flat chest with her hands, leaving with a guarded expression. It was clear she harbored some wariness towards Duan Yun's fingers. Duan Yun. Seriously? Wait, pervert? Suddenly, a flash of inspiration struck Duan Yun's extraordinary insightful mind. Right, why not be a bit risque? Perhaps being risque could solve the problem. Since practicing according to the secret book's methods caused the shaking force to rush straight to the head, damaging his extraordinary wisdom, what if the force was directed downwards instead? Duan Yun decided to give it a try on the spot. He would practice flirtatious finger strength in reverse. Chapter 107. Toe Strength Stylishness. Success? Jianli Yuan Guan, Ju Ke. Tongli, Lai Ke. This was Duan Yun's first time seriously practicing the cultivation technique in reverse, so he could only try slowly. He first tried to reverse practice halfway, only to find that he couldn't shoot finger strength from his fingers anymore. Since he had to practice in reverse thoroughly, the finger strength could not be shot out from the fingers. It had to come from the feet. I'm good at this. For Duan Yun, who had created the toe sword, this path was not entirely unfamiliar. His entire body's meridians had already adapted to all sorts of jade sword true qi, breaking body sword energy. So starting a reverse practice path was not difficult. Ju Ke, Yuan Guan, Jianli. Beginning from the dantian, his true qi started to flow in reverse, this time not going to the arms but directly to the legs and feet. Blood Si Zhongshi, 3 Yang Jiao. The first meridian pathway Duan Yun tried was that of the toe sword, and as a result of smooth energy flow, toe strength was also emitted, but unfortunately, it lacked that shaking force that shook others as well as oneself. This reverse practice was not successful because the reverse route was wrong. He needed to try more. Yin Valley, Wind Market, 3 Yang Jiao, Kunlun. Duan Yun compared the acupoints of his legs and hands one by one, trying to find similar acupoints to channel the energy forward. For a while, he attempted many times and felt a bit dizzy. He decided to sleep first, too tired from today's attempts. He would continue tomorrow. He was never worried about not being able to succeed in his practice. Afterward, Duan Yun fell asleep, and even in his sleep, the true qi in his body was still flowing in reverse. If Shining and the Murong brothers knew about his practice methods, they would surely think he was crazy. This was a standard case of potential deviation, where the lighter consequence was meridian disorder leading to paralysis and the severe was insanity leading to sudden death. But Duan Yun could practice like this. His toe sword and elbow sword, as well as the breaking body sword energy, were all developed in this way. His body had already adapted to various flows of true qi. The breaking body sword energy, in particular, even involved carving a new path from the flesh and blood. This was illogical, but for someone possessing extraordinary wisdom and supreme talent in cultivation, it made sense. Duan Yun slept for a total of 10 hours this time. This time, it was the Murong brothers and Shining watching over him. One of the Murong brothers checked Duan Yun's breathing and said, "He's still alive. No need to bury him just yet, but keep that grave ready." Shining, seeing his sleeping fingers in that indecent position and his toes slightly curled, couldn't help but say worriedly, "Could there be a problem with his training?" "This is not a problem we can solve," the Murong brothers replied. That was both an answer and a conclusion. Even if they wanted to guide Duan Yun in his cultivation, how could they? Thinking of their own life's pride, the 12 layers of spring rain, they bitterly practiced for so many years. Yet this guy managed to play around with it in just a few months. The Murong brothers felt complicated feelings and even a tinge of bitterness. It's like being with a Taoist couple who were in love for many years, completely in sync and intimate. And then suddenly, she unites her swords with another man, achieving heights they never reached before. No. The Murong brothers hurriedly cleared their heads of such wild thoughts. Shining couldn't help but ask in confusion, "So is he still going to eat?" The Murong brothers said solemnly, "He's got problems whether he's awake or not. I told you practicing that finger technique alone won't do. It should be me, look." At that moment, Duan Yun suddenly sat up. Seeing this, the Murong brothers exclaimed in surprise, "How did you suddenly wake up?" "I'm hungry. Heard you talking about eating," Duan Yun said. The Murong brothers' faces twitched, saying, "You wake up that easily? If I mention the toilet, I need to take a leak." Saying so, he really went off to urinate. Murong brothers and Shining looked at each other, and the Murong brothers said, "Is he really okay? Can eat, can drink, can pee, what could be wrong? Only when someone's like you, lying there like a corpse for 3 days, then there's a problem," Shining said with a look of disdain. Indeed, even in a comatose state from practicing kung fu, there is a difference between people. Murong brothers. At dinner, Duan Yun ate a lot, not just because he was very hungry after nearly a full day and night of sleep, but also because he knew that to practice finger strength in reverse would be hard and require the hefty price of staying up late. He had to eat well to have the energy. Unable to resist, the Murong brothers asked, "How's your finger strength practice going?" Duan Yun sighed, "It's very difficult. Need to work hard on it." Hearing this, the Murong brothers felt a bit more balanced mentally. It sounded like he hadn't grasped the basics. Yes, indeed, cultivating, especially such divine skills, how could it be mastered in just a couple of days? Even for a genius like him, it was impossible. It's only a freak like Duan Yun who would come up with such a bizarre idea. But thinking back to the cries during the 12 layers of spring rain last night and the nearly exploded graveyard, the Murong brothers couldn't help feeling uneasy. However, they quickly reassured themselves. The sword is not far from the blade. This guy has a terrifying talent for both swordsmanship and sword techniques. He surely couldn't be that incredibly gifted at finger strength as well, could he? There are always limits to one's abilities. After finishing the meal, Duan Yun swiftly went back to reverse engineering the finger technique. He must discover that shaking force within the meridians. 1 hour, 2 hours. Duan Yun was getting tired. With little progress, he decided to take a piss to relax. In the corner of the backyard, after finishing his pee, he couldn't resist and gave a comfortable shake. With that shake, inspiration struck. Indeed, how similar was this to the shaking force he was looking for? Guan Yuan acupoint and Zhongji acupoint? Duan Yun recalled the shake right after urinating and noticed the true qi flowing more actively through these two acupoints. He decided to incorporate these two acupoints. Duan Yun decided to give it a try. So, on top of the reverse finger technique, he incorporated the Guan Yuan acupoint and Zhongji acupoint in the middle section. With a swishing sound, his toes projected a burst of qi force, creating a sound as it tore through the air. The old tree shook slightly. Nothing out of the ordinary happened, but at that moment, the shaking force Duan Yun was searching for arrived. This shaking force was undoubtedly rushing downward. Ah! In the next instant, Duan Yun tensed his legs, finding them numb. His body down there was numb from the vibrations, with one force surging upwards to his brain and another flowing downwards to his body. The brain, possessing extraordinary wisdom, is important, but so is his body. If it happened a few more times, who knows what consequences his body would have to endure. It's also fortunate that he had been regularly practicing Jade Sword stance, nourishing Yin and supplementing Yang. His body was quite strong and vigorous. After resting for a while, his body had recovered. Had it been anyone else, they might have been left with a grievous injury, completely knocked unconscious. Thinking of these things, Duan Yun decided to slightly redirect this shaking force. The brain, occupying high ground within the skull, was difficult to bypass, but compared to the hips, his body wasn't very large, so there was a possibility of redirecting. He decided to pass this shaking force down his thigh, much like a lightning rod directing electricity to the ground. Duan Yun tried again. Turn! The sinking shaking force rapidly coursed through like an electric current, but Duan Yun's reaction was just as fast. After all, he had experienced controlling the demon electricity of 12 layers of spring rain. Yes, it didn't need much change of trajectory or precision, as long as it avoided the body when surging down. The shaking force shifted just a little, sneaking down the inside of his right thigh. Success! With a snap, at the moment Duan Yun's toes shot out a qi force, his right foot lifted off the ground, and he began to float. At this moment, Duan Yun had an epiphany. He understood the missing parts of the romantic toy. Wang Fengfeng was known throughout the world for his finger strength and lightweight movement technique. This finger strength and movement technique were one and the same. Shoot! Shoot! Shoot again! Duan Yun continuously kicked out toe strength, shaking the old tree repeatedly and elevating himself like riding the wind effortlessly, becoming more and more unrestrained, truly a romantic toy. The Murong brothers, who got up to pee in the middle of the night, were stupefied when they saw this scene. Hey, old Duan, you're not really about to ascend, are you? Don't scare me. The next moment, with a snap, Duan Yun excitedly landed in front of them. Seeing Duan Yun's excited eyes, the Murong brothers tensed up and asked, "What are you going to do?" "Brother, help me test a move. I'm still not clear on the effects and power of this toe strength," said Duan Yun earnestly. The Murong brothers suddenly remembered something and excitedly said, "Have you mastered that kind of toe skills that can bring happiness to friends? Is that it?" Duan Yun nodded and said, "Probably. Want to give it a try?" "Let's give it a try." In a moment, the Murong brothers were looking forward to it. Chapter 108. Murong Brothers. Where is the promised happiness? Under the moonlit night, Morong and Duan Yun stood opposite each other, ready to test the results of Duan Yun's cultivation. Morong had long admired Wang Fengfeng's unique skills, and now had the opportunity to experience such bliss. How could he not be excited? Having learned it for himself, he could now find his own happiness. Happiness. Thinking back on the enormous happiness that had vanished into nothing, a great sadness welled up in Morong's heart. He truly needed to be healed by this wind-flowing force. Shen Ying was awakened by the commotion of the two men, and she sleepily emerged from the house, only to see the two standing in the courtyard. Seeing Duan Yun ready to try out his movements, she quickly realized and asked, "Have you mastered it?" "Just mastered. Now let Morong experience it," said Duan Yun. Shen Ying looked at the two eager men, one brimming with anticipation, and couldn't help but criticize. "The two of you are going to try Wang Fengfeng's finger strength? Isn't that twisted?" Duan Yun couldn't help but turn to her and say, "Then shall we test it on you?" Shen Ying immediately protected her flat chest and said, "No. Have you been thinking about this all along?" Duan Yun, forbidden to think, even thinking is wrong. Forbidden to think, even thinking is wrong. Forbidden to think, even thinking is wrong. On this quiet night, the three voiced in unison. Indeed, both Duan Yun and Morong were quick to respond. The two no longer paid attention to the woman below them and once again looked at each other. "Come on, I'm ready." Saying this, Morong assumed the jade sword stance, waiting. At this moment, he truly needed healing. Duan Yun looked at him and said, "Okay." The next moment, true qi emerged from his dantian, thundering through the cultivated acupoints. With a swoosh, a stream of qi force shot from Duan Yun's toe, neither too fast nor too slow, easily traceable by both Morong and Shen Ying. Since it was a test, he used only 30% of his strength to not be too harsh on Morong. Morong leaned forward to meet the attack. With a pop, the toe strength hit his abdomen, the sound crisp. "Oh!" A terrifying sensation surged like a flood breaching a dam straight toward the bladder. The next moment, while Morong was kneeling, he couldn't help but shudder, trembling massively, and then he wet himself. Morong looked down just to see droplets tick-tick trickling from his trouser crotch, slightly yellow, unabated. He then looked up, meeting the astonished faces of Duan Yun and Shen Ying. Duan Yun asked with concern, "Are you all right?" Morong's eyes welled up as he said, "What about the promised happiness? What about the promised happiness?" Seeing Morong clenching his legs, trembling and leaking, he returned into the house like an injured old dog. He, the distinguished son of Morong family, 1 in 10,000 saber genius, adored by ladies for his handsome talents, had actually leaked in public. Fortunately, the sisters he deeply loved did not witness this. Otherwise, he didn't want to live anymore. Wailing, Duan Yun, listening to the crying, solemnly said, "He wept from happiness. What about you?" Then he turned his gaze to Shen Ying. Shen Ying was so scared that she jumped onto the rooftop at once and anxiously asked, "What are you going to do?" "I don't want that, no. Even thinking about it is perverted." Having witnessed the happiness of the Morong brothers, Duan Yun merely standing there could impose immense pressure on Shen Ying, because this technique, even without causing physical harm, could kill someone, especially for those who have status, who care about their face. In the martial world, very few people don't care about their reputation. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people joining forces to assist each other or gathering to watch the demon-slaying conference at the graveyard. It's all for future bragging rights. But Duan Yun's move had too strong a lethality. In the eyes of Duan Yun, a gynecologist, what he saw was diuresis, but in Shen Ying's eyes, it was falling to her knees and having a urinary incontinence in public. Imagine, in the martial world, men and women often travel together, such as a senior brother and junior sister who harbor mutual affections. To win over the opposite sex, they usually show off their skills in front of each other when encountering an opponent. Being defeated or killed by an ordinary opponent is bearable. But what if they encounter old demon Duan, the senior brother just about to demonstrate his prowess in front of his junior sister? but with just a slight move from old demon Duan, he ends up kneeling and urinating incontinence in front of the woman he loves. How horrifying is it to be played like that? No, there is something even worse. Your junior sister tries to help you, and she too, under your gaze, gets made to kneel and suffer incontinence by old demon Duan, especially when there are many spectators around. Old demon Duan doesn't actually kill anyone, but some people are already dead by then. Or take a pure and chaste fairy, admired by countless lovers, believed to be flawless. One day, the fairy makes a move, elegantly captivating everyone, intending to subdue her opponent with a thunderous force. But in the next moment, she kneels in front of her opponent and urinates. How should the fairy face this? Let's not talk about how the fairy, senior brother, and senior sister manage. Even the Murong brothers don't know how to handle themselves nowadays. Stop crying. Following a trail of urine, Duan Yun found the Murong brothers cowering in a straw mat and comfortingly said. Hearing this, the Murong brothers cried even louder, wailing like an aggrieved young wife. It's my face that's lost. Can't I mourn for my now dead heroic and valorous image? Apart from their dead affection, the Murong brothers had never cried like this before. Ah, how was I to know that just 30% of my strength would do this? Duan Yun lamented. Upon hearing this, the Murong brothers stopped crying abruptly. They and Shun Ying simultaneously felt a chilling sensation. If 30% of strength results in kneeling and incontinence, what would 100% look like? Just thinking about it was frightening. Duan Yun also felt quite wronged and said, It's all because of this secret book of Wang Fengfeng's. I was just practicing according to it. How was I supposed to know it would turn out like this? Shining shook her head and said, I've never heard that finger strength could have such terrifying effects. Duan Yun puzzled. Could it be due to the difference between fingers and toes? Since mastering toe strength, he gained a new insight. Adding the Guan Yuan acupoint and Zhongji acupoint, he found a trembling sensation and thought maybe his fingers could emit a similar force. Thinking of these, true qi once again circulated within him. The beginning half was still the reverse training route, but then added Guan Yuan and Zhongji points. This time, however, it didn't sink towards his toes but rose into the meridians of his arms. Tongli, Lai Ke Yangshi. But at Yangshi acupoint, the force suddenly got stuck. A snapping sound was heard as a strike of finger strength was flung out, grazing past Xin Ying's shoulder and hitting the wall. At this time, Xin Ying's face turned pale, and the Murong brothers, frightened, wrapped themselves in the straw mat shivering. Duan Yun seriously said, Don't be scared. This one was an accident. But don't you want to see the effect of using 100% of my strength? Duan Yun suddenly asked in a low voice. Ah! Ah! In the deep of night, a man and a woman screamed in Yuzhu Villa like wailing ghosts. Xining and the Murong brothers, one flying out like a graceful big bird, employing her movement technique, the other moving wrapped in the mat, shooting out like a long worm, both escaping rapidly. Old Demon Duan was truly too terrifying. Chapter 109. Finally found you, young hero of the unorthodox path. Duan Yun repeatedly assured that he absolutely would not employ the flirtatious finger strength or toe strength on the two, and only then did the Murong brothers and Shen Ying agree to return to the villa. He had not expected that the two would be so resistant to the matter of diuretics. In fact, from his perspective as a doctor, it was good for the Murong brothers with their yellowish urine to get rid of some internal heat. The Murong brothers, utterly unaware of this, bathed themselves inside and out twice before they could barely accept themselves. It had been a long time since he last took a bath. The Murong brothers weren't accustomed to washing their faces, feet, or taking baths, with a minor clean every 5 days and a thorough wash every 10 days being the norm. Such a thorough bath was a first for them. Exhausted from being tossed about for the better half of the night, he finally lay on the ground and fell asleep, even dreaming. A beautiful dream. He dreamt of his past lovers. In the dream, they were no longer his biological sisters but affectionate lovers. The Murong brothers were thrilled, but suddenly, a mysterious voice whispered in his ear. Murong brothers, you wouldn't want them to find out about the urine play, would you? Instantly, the Murong brothers woke up. back drenched in cold sweat. Even now, the spine-chilling and hair-raising sensation still lingered. Such a nightmare was truly terrifying. The Morong brothers were so scared that, staring into the profound night outside, they couldn't help complaining, "It's all old demon Duan's fault." Indeed, he had slept here in the villa under the graveyard for so long and had never experienced such a dreadful nightmare before. Since the Morong brothers were not strong enough, Duan Yun was faced with a new problem. He was unclear about the actual effects of flirtatious finger strength and toe strength at full power. So, he turned his attention to the donkey, Little Gray, but Little Gray immediately bolted off with a bleat. Well, in the end, donkeys and people are not quite the same. Another person was needed to test the effects. After practicing for so long, Duan Yun was also tired. He drifted off to sleep, excited by the new moves he developed. They say that a young hero who champions justice rarely has bad luck. At dawn, someone knocked on the door of Yuzhu Villa. It was rare for Yuzhu Villa to have a guest, the last guest having come to kill Morong brothers' sister, Fu Wanjun. This time it was still a woman, a sweet-looking, sweet-smiling matron. The Morong brothers immediately threw out the straw mat, quickly grooming and dressing up. But this matron was not looking for him. She was looking for Duan Yun. The sweet-looking matron, in an apple-green long dress, revealed a deep cleavage on her chest. Holding a box, she said with a sweet smile, "Young hero, the sword you ordered is ready." Duan Yun took the box and drew the sword. A sharp edge emanated from the box. A 4-foot-long sword made of Shenlei iron was presented before Duan Yun. The sword was sleek, dignified, and elegant. Intricate patterns stretched from the hilt to the blade, exuding a sense of elongation. This was crafted by the top artisan of the Great Furnace. "Does it satisfy young hero Duan?" The matron leaned in and asked softly. Duan Yun, looking at her deep cleavage up close, replied, "Satisfied." Holding the sword in his hand, he knew he was satisfied. Although it wasn't as delicate as the touch of the skin of the woman named Wenro, the grip felt very comfortable. And with these patterns, it was simply stunning. Duan Yun, a young hero known for his sword Dao, finally had a good sword that was perfect inside and out. Duan Yun was in a good mood and couldn't help saying, "For such a minor matter as delivering a sword, did you have to come in person, lady?" The apple-green matron laughed, revealing sweet dimples, and said, "Young hero is a distinguished guest that caught our attention at first glance. How can it be a minor matter?" She was sweet-looking, spoke sweetly, and even her words were sweet, making it impossible to find fault. At that moment, the matron looked at the gloomy, run-down appearance of Yuzhu Villa, especially the graveyard behind it, and couldn't help saying, "The place where young hero lives is really special. It must be quite thrilling to sleep here, don't you think?" Her emphasis was noticeable when she said, "to sleep." That's when a clear voice rang out. "The lady isn't planning to stay too, is she?" Shening stood behind a pillar, her face expressionless. The matron looked at Shening, still smiling sweetly, and said, "No wonder young hero chose to live here. It turns out there was already a thrill-seeker arranged." Shening tilted her head and said, "Yeah, he's thrilling enough, and as a righteous young hero, surely he can't be exposed to other thrills. Right, young hero Duan?" Duan Yun, full of heroic spirit, said, "Exactly." For the moment, there was no fault to find with the sword, so there was no need to lock up this lady in the cellar or to go after her husband. By this time, the Morong brothers, having finished grooming, came out. Touching his newly combed hair and with a melancholic look in his eyes, he said, "Lady, I am the owner of Yuzhu Villa, a most hospitable person, and I'm not looking for thrills. Goodbye." Before the Morong brothers could finish their sentence, the sweet matron, with a dreamy glance at Duan Yun and Shening, left. Morong brothers stood there, dumbstruck, and said, "Why? She didn't even glance at me once." Shening scanned Morong brothers from head to toe and said, "You don't look very wealthy." Morong brothers protested, "Old demon Duan is wealthy? I managed to get this mountain villa after so much sweet talk and persuasion." Shining shook her head and said, "At least his shoes have soles." Hearing this, Morong Brothers' tensely held right leg couldn't help but weaken, revealing his soleless shoes. "This is just because I haven't found the time to go buy some. Moreover, he is handsomer than you. This kind of woman, if she doesn't love charm, she loves money. Which do you possess?" Shun Ying added another stab to Morong Brothers' heart. Shadow Ying's words could sometimes be venomous, yet they were also quite accurate to the point of being a conclusion. Morong Brothers tried to defend himself. "That was just me not in good shape." Duan Yun listened to the side, amused, but then Shining suddenly turned to him and said, "Although Morong Brothers is both poor and unattractive, he at least has some discernment. What about you?" Duan Yun, "Me. Your eyes are practically glued to someone else's lapel. If this level of merchandise can leave you dizzy and disoriented, it seems you, young hero, aren't all that impressive. Going out into the world, you are likely to end up both duped and slain." With that, Shining walked away. Duan Yun couldn't resist quipping, "Is it that time of the month for her? Coming early?" Morong Brothers laughed and said, "It seems your sister really likes you quite a bit. You two should quickly confirm your blood relations. I fear getting too deep later on will be hard to extricate yourselves." Saying so, a look of melancholic confusion flashed across his eyes. Yes, too deeply involved. The good news of having a precious sword had just passed in the morning, and new good news arrived in the afternoon. This time, it was not a beautiful young wife who came knocking but a servant boy. The news they sought, the roll-up door was found. Duan Yun looked at the note, his eyes glowing with excitement. "Zhu Haimian, I've finally found you." Morong Brothers looked at the note, his eyes filled with both joy and sorrow. "Linger, the search for you has been so hard." That very afternoon, the two men were ready to set off, one to take down the demon, and the other in search of his sister. Duan Yun was always decisive and swift, believing that to fight evil demons and heretics, the more thunderous the approach, the better. Before he left, he patted Shin Ying's shoulder and said, "Don't miss me. I'll be quick in battle and return as soon as possible." Shin Ying's face flushed red, retorting, "Who would miss you, you weirdo?" After that, Duan Yun picked up his sword and left without looking back. Morong Brothers was a little slower. Shining looked at him and said, "Why don't you persuade me to follow along this time?" Morong Brothers sighed. "No need. Initially, I wanted to see you quickly sink into the quagmire of affection. By now, you've already fallen in, so it's unnecessary." Morong Brothers explained. "Who has fallen in? And you're not worried about him getting into trouble this time?" Shin Ying challenged. Morong Brothers replied, "Worried about him? What's there to worry about him for? I'm more worried about Zhu Haimian." "How so?" "With just that one move he used to blow up the mountain, 2-star phases would have a tough time handling it, not to mention now his fingers and toes are extremely formidable. His wind-flowing force is exactly the bane of Zhu Haimian." Seeing Shen Ying's still puzzled expression, Morong Brothers explained, "Don't you know Zhu Haimian? That pig, rarely smiles, and has never been seen laughing?" Shen Ying questioned, "Why?" "Because Zhu Haimian is an extremely handsome man who believes that smiling would compromise his handsomeness, so he simply chose not to smile." Shen Ying suddenly got it and said, "Such a face-conscious person, if made to wet himself by old demon Duan in front of everyone, his mindset would surely be greatly affected. In a high-level duel, if the mind is unsettled, the combat strength is halved." Morong Brothers continued, "Zhu Haimian is also notorious as a kidnapper. I know that. He loves to abduct heroines to tame them as wives, but once they marry him, he often turns into a good, loving, and henpecked husband," said Shining. "These heroines, like Chan Ying of the Huangshan sword sect, are already fiery by nature. Being abductively wed to this pig made her even more extreme. Now she's indiscriminate between good and evil, reveling in killing loving Taoist couples at the slightest disagreement, turning people into mutilated bodies. You should know, over the years, she has killed more than Zhu Haimian himself, and she's considered the #1 assassin of the Zhu family. If Duan Yun comes knocking, this proud and pampered Mrs. Zhu will certainly make the first move, and even Zhu Haimian won't be able to stop her. Shunning suddenly understood his point and said, then faced with old demon Duan's flirtatious finger strength, this heroine Chun will surely, exactly, for someone like Zhu Haimian, who values face so much, if his wife wets herself in public, he would worry about the bloodthirsty storyteller spreading tales everywhere. Wouldn't his mindset crumble? Shining said, I'm starting to feel a bit sorry for him. Murong brothers sighed. With old demon Duan wielding such dreadful finger technique, Zhu Haimian won't stand a chance to force out his ultimate moves. You didn't endure those 30% power strikes last night. You have no idea that feeling that you can't resist, can't avoid kneeling or showing weakness. Shining drew in a sharp breath and asked, and you? You're okay. Murong brothers' eyes turned tender. I'm fine. I know Linger would never kill me no matter what. Besides, I've been practicing swordsmanship too, and am just a little behind Duan Yun now. If you both leave, then just bury me first, Shining said. What? My 9-death silkworm will mature soon. When you return, you can just dig me out, Shining said. While speaking, Shining had dragged out the chest from before and lay down in it with practiced ease. Her arms crossed over her chest, looking remarkably serene in her departure. Chapter 110. Xiandi's poison. Shining was gone, having passed away peacefully. She was buried beneath the plum tree at the Yuzhu villa, in a pit inadvertently left by the Murong brothers while searching for liquor, which they had never bothered to fill in. The coffin was readily available, as was the pit, which saved the Murong brothers some effort. Before being buried, Shining had instructed that if she were to be exhumed, Duan Yun was to be the one to open the coffin. The Murong brothers asked, why? After asking, they immediately regretted it, for Shinying's reply indeed made them feel rather upset. Last time I opened the coffin, I found his presence quite agreeable. I wished to wake up to a pleasing sight again. Feeling as though they had just been force-fed dog food, the Murong brothers cursed and stomped on the dirt a few times to pack the burial ground firmly before leaving. In fact, Shining didn't want to hibernate so soon. Her conversation with the Murong brothers was actually an indication that she wanted to follow Duan Yun. However, she discovered that Duan Yun did not invite her, and she couldn't just shamelessly tag along. Moreover, she happened to be in the winter silkworm stage, so she chose to be buried. Her previous cultivation of the 9-death silkworm had been interrupted by Duan Yun while submerged underwater, which caused some issues, so she took this opportunity to make amends. Duan Yun left, Shining was buried. The Murong brothers also left, and even the gray donkey was ridden away by Duan Yun. Thus, Yuzhu Villa once again became a deserted estate that no one inquired about. When the traitor golden snub-nosed monkey came with a stack of apples to visit them, it didn't find a single hair. After waiting for a while longer, the monkey felt that it wouldn't be seeing the residents of the villa anytime soon, so it had no choice but to rush back to relay the message. In the deserted Yuzhu villa, soon 2 figures arrived. One was very tall and stout with bright eyes, resembling a great ape. The other had a long, red, fleshy lump on top of their head, looking quite terrifying. These two were, of course, Monkey Face and Chicken. Monkey Wuya caressed the golden snub-nosed monkey's head gently, yet the monkey trembled in fear. The next moment, a ghastly scream of a monkey was heard. Monkey Wuya had already inserted a thin tube into the golden snub-nosed monkey's head and took a sip. After that, he withdrew the tube and while caressing the monkey's wound, said, "Go find old demon Duan. It'll be more than just a sip if you can't." The golden snub-nosed monkey scurried out of the yard, and soon, more jumping figures appeared in the forest. Duan Yun rode Little Gray at a leisurely pace, neither too fast nor too slow. Gazing at the clouds on the horizon, he felt once again the sense of being on the road. It was a pleasing sensation, especially since he wore a conical hat, with a long sword and saber on his back. He now looked even more like a young wanderer than when he left Lishui City. It had been quite a while since the young hero engaged in chivalrous deeds since the battle at the graveyard. He had rested long enough. There were still so many evil demons in the martial world waiting for him to slay, and he could not afford to be slack. The young hero's sense of purpose rose anew. His primary target this time was naturally to kill pigs. The information about Pigface, which he had acquired at great expense, turned out to be quite mundane. Pigface, Zhu Haimian, had not taken any action after announcing his intentions to torment him beyond recognition and stayed within his Zhu Yen Manor. Zhu Yen Manor was located in the north, at the border between Yun State and Yu State. Duan Yun did not know how long it would take him to arrive. That would depend on whether the guide had a conscience or not. The further north he went, the steeper the mountains became. On this day, Duan Yun was riding Little Gray on a narrow mountain path, with one side being a steep cliff that even monkeys would find difficult to climb, and the other side a deep ravine. A pebble rolled down the path, disappearing into the sea of clouds below the cliff without a sound of impact. It was nearing dusk at this time. Dark clouds loomed, and gusts of mountain wind blew, occasionally carrying the cries of monkeys, eerie like the wailing of ghosts. With no villages or inns ahead or behind, Duan Yun found it difficult to find a place to rest. Although he was accustomed to sleeping in the wilderness, having spent about half of the past 7 or 8 days doing so, this area was particularly challenging. It always felt like one could be blown off the cliff by the strong winds. Suddenly, Little Gray stumbled and nearly sent both the rider and the donkey tumbling down the cliff. Duan Yun had no choice but to dismount and lead the donkey by hand. Darkness quickly descended. There were no stars or moon that night, and fog rose, leaving Duan Yun to lead the gray donkey step by precarious step along the treacherous path. In the night, the mountains seemed full of spectral creatures, with wild trees growing on the cliffside, their branches gnarled like ghostly claws. Deep into the night, some stretches of the path were so black one could not see their own hand before their eyes, leaving one with the eerie feeling that terrifying creatures lurked all around. Suddenly, Duan Yun saw a glimmer of light. The flicker of light lay not far ahead, like a swaying lantern. Where there was a lantern, there were people. His water skin had run dry in the afternoon, and although this was nothing for someone with his level of cultivation, he still desired to eat and drink his fill and to relax. The young hero was human after all, and he needed to eat and sleep as well. Duan Yun quickened his pace, heading towards the lantern. The lantern was red, and as he got closer, it looked like the eye of a demon in the mountains, somewhat eerie. By this time, Duan Yun could hear voices. Sons of turtles, hurry it up. Boss man, where's my food? Drink up, let's go. From here, one could see not just one lantern but a series of lanterns forming a line along the mountain wall. A night market had appeared in this sinister, frightening mountain with many people inside. With no villages ahead or behind, where did all these people come from? There must be other paths in the nocturnal forest, just not visible to the eye. But this place is really bustling. What Duan Yun found novel was that the path here wasn't much wider, just enough for a carriage to pass, yet it somehow accommodated so many people and shops. This was all thanks to the many bamboo poles inserted on the side of the road's cliff face. These bamboos, arranged together though not tightly packed, formed a certain space. Quite a few people were lying on these bamboo beds, casually covered with a blanket, snoring heavily in their sleep. You must know that beneath the bamboos lies a bottomless cliff. If someone were to be restless in their sleep, they'd likely tumble down to their death. Yet these people sleep so soundly as if they were long accustomed to this peril. At this time, new travelers were arriving on the path. One was a fat man, sitting on a bamboo palanquin carried by 2 bearers, leisurely coming up the steep mountain road from below. Up ahead, an inn appeared. This inn too sat upon bamboo scaffolding, looking very unsteady as if it could tumble down the cliff at any moment. But no one minded it, and on this late night, the small inn managed to seat several tables of patrons. From here, Duan Yun could see a cook wrapped in a bandana, stir-frying dishes vigorously inside. Duan Yun tied Little Gray to the side and strode directly into the inn. Drink up, come on. Stop that nonsense. If you don't drink then you're not brotherly. I'll bed you right here, right now. Zhu Yan Manor lies on the border between Yun State and Yu State, and judging from the steep mountain terrain and the dialect of the locals, this Yu State seems to have some similarities to the former world Sichuan. The small inn had 7 tables, with 1 empty, so Duan Yun sat down. The voices inside were quite loud, especially the one urging others to drink. Duan Yun noticed that patrons at 2 tables were wearing deerskin gloves on one hand. Wearing deerskin gloves only on one hand, based on the shallow information Duan Yun had gathered on the road, should be the people from the Tang sect. Tang sect, located in Yu State, had disciples who were very tough to mess with in the vicinity. All because they had both money and poison. Tang sect's hidden weapons and poisons were famous throughout the world, and those wearing deerskin gloves did so to facilitate the use of poisoned hidden weapons. The poison of the Tang sect acts too swiftly. Sometimes even if one has the antidote on them, they'd be overcome before they could take it. Thus they have to be extra careful themselves. It's said that once a Tang sect master accidentally wiped his mouth with a handkerchief smeared with poison and ended up poisoning himself to death. It must be said, just wearing those deerskin gloves exudes a strong oppressive aura. After Duan Yun's entrance, some people glanced over but then looked away. Duan Yun's attire was that of a standard hero of the martial world, and the fact that he carried both a sword and a knife indicated that he was skilled. Not everyone could master both a sword and a knife. By this time, Duan Yun was truly hungry. He looked to the adjacent table and said, "Hey, server, I'll have what they're having." "All right." The food and drink were served quickly. The dish was a mixed hodgepodge in red oil, a typical fare of Yu State, with pork intestine, pig's blood, pork liver, and pork meat all mixed in vivid red seasoning. It's rough but satisfying to eat. The wine came in bamboo tubes, just poured out when wanted to drink, carrying a fresh scent of bamboo leaves. Duan Yun had been on the road for so long and was famished, so he dug in without hesitation. However, during the meal he was still careful to test for poison. For someone in the martial world who had cultivated a pure flow of true qi like his, testing for poison was much simpler than for ordinary martial world travelers. Just observe whether the true qi flowed smoothly. So far, so good. He then ate and drank with relief. A gust of mountain wind blew in, causing the lanterns at the entrance of the inn to sway, and even the mist from the cliffs poured into the room, making the place momentarily hazy. Suddenly, a Tang sect disciple stood up and exclaimed, "This is bad. The wine is poisoned." With a thud, he collapsed. Hud hud hud. Soon after, many in the room fell. Duan Yun too sensed that his true qi suddenly became turbulent, as if it had exploded. His true qi was robust enough to keep him upright despite the poison, but he also chose to fit in with the crowd and collapsed. Beneath the table, the wine he had drunk was now seeping out through his fingers. How can this be? One of the Tang sect disciples struggled, trying to get up. Indeed, the poison arts of the Tang sect are world-renowned, and since childhood, Tang sect disciples basically grew up among poisons. They need not taste to know if there was poison. They could tell just by looking. But at this moment, the dozen people of the Tang sect had been poisoned. The wind outside grew stronger, and a sultry laugh of a woman came through. "Ordinary poisons can't touch you, but our holy fairy Xiandi's water is colorless, tasteless, and even carries a natural fragrance. Even you poisoners wouldn't be able to detect it." Upon hearing this, the faces of the Tang sect members turned deathly pale. Xiandi's water, red house fairy. Out of the swirling mist, 3 red building women descended, looking truly like fairies fallen from the heavens. Red house mad woman. At this moment, Duan Yun lying under the table had an excited change in expression. Young hero, I, at last, found a target for my full-powered flirtatious finger strength. But what exactly is the Xiandi's water? Poison? A poison that even the Tang sect experts could not detect. Chapter 111. Instant refinement. The people in an inn were all knocked down by this so-called Xiandi's water. Duan Yun's jade sword true qi had reached a certain level of proficiency, and after merging with moonlight and having the alcohol forced out by finger strength, it didn't cause much trouble. If there was something to mention, It was that the flow of alcohol through the meridians left a tingling sensation in the flesh. From the Tang sect disciples who were poisoned, it was clear that the paralyzing power of Xiandi's water was strong, as even those who usually handled poison couldn't withstand it. Thinking of Xiandi's water, whether it was an illusion or not, Duan Yun felt that the previously fragrant wine had an odd taste to it. At that moment, 3 fairy-like women clad in thin gauze from the red building walked in, revealing their exquisite figures amidst the mist. For a moment, the eyes of the Tang sect disciples looked defeated, like lambs to the slaughter. But in Duan Yun's eyes, these were all excellent material for practicing. At that time, Duan Yun noticed that one of the Tang sect disciples had not fallen yet. He had noticed him from the beginning. This young man sitting among the Tang sect's people was the only one not wearing deer leather gloves. Such a person was either a novice or an expert, with delicate skills and minds, where deer leather gloves would only hinder his performance. No wonder he's a young master from the Tang family. Even after drinking Little Building Owner's Xiandi holy water, he hasn't fallen. Little Building Owner's choice of material is indeed extraordinary, the leading woman said with a flirtatious smile. She had walked over, lightly poked the young master from the Tang family with her finger, and he collapsed onto the chair. The leading red building woman grabbed the Tang family young master, licked his face and said, "Although you belong to Little Building Owner, today I can also have a taste." The other 2 red building women asked, "What about the remaining, sister? Why wait if the remaining are here?" The red building woman replied, "Hey, hey, hey." In the inn, the laughter of the women sounded like silver bells. Yet in the dead of night, it was more terrifying than ghostly wails. The people who were previously sleeping on the bamboo rafts had already disappeared, as if they had never existed. Escaping is also an essential skill among the people of the martial world. With that, accompanied by those shaking red lanterns, the area suddenly felt more like a ghost market. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The clothes on the red building fairies had slipped down. Their bodies began to sway. They were about to start practicing. Just as the leading red building woman was about to sit on the Tang family young master, a Tang sect disciple struggled and grabbed his ankle, saying, "You dare provoke our Tang sect?" His face was ashen, and his tongue almost trembling while speaking. "Ha ha ha! Our red building is inhabited by descended fairies? Who are we afraid of?" With that, she kicked the Tang sect disciple away. Her figure floated like riding a horse, and sat on the Tang family young master. The next moment, the red building woman harshly grabbed the Tang family young master's hair, pulling so hard that his scalp bled and his body shook. The Tang family young master looked desperate and pained, as if he already saw his fate of being drained completely. At this moment, a force suddenly broke through the air. The red building woman reacted swiftly, turned her body, and formed a handprint with both hands to block. With a slap, the handprint collided with finger strength, creating ripple-like waves. "You shameless little..." Although the red building woman had blocked the move, suddenly, she felt an uncontrollable shaking force rushing directly to her bladder meridians. She thumped to the ground, a terrifying urge to urinate shooting out like sharp arrows, splashing the Tang family young master's face. In an instant, the red building woman's eyes rolled back, her body exhausted. The remaining 2 red building women were startled, not understanding what happened, when suddenly a figure appeared, pressing down on their sister's head. Bang! The wind blew open the windows, the dim morning light reflecting Duan Yun's handsome face. Under his palm, a peculiar vortex of suction spun, ferociously draining the true qi from the red building woman's head. Both red building women were terrified, soaked to the skin as their sister collapsed weakly without any resistance upon their meeting. "This mad woman's true qi tastes not bad." One of them recovered and shouted, "Old demon Duan!" With these words, not only the red building women but also the Tang sect disciple lying on the ground were terrified. The previously leading red building woman claimed they were fairies descending to earth, fearing no one, only to have their courage thoroughly shattered by old demon Duan at that moment. After the battle at the graveyard, Old Demon Duan had become a major threat to the heart of Red House. Saying he was the one they feared most was no exaggeration, for he had already brutally and horrifyingly maimed too many of their sisters. Like now, their own sister was sucked dry until her eyes rolled back. Duan Yun sucked even harder, declaring, "Stop talking nonsense. I am young hero Duan Lang. I want to be a hero." Suddenly, a red building woman screamed madly, her voice horrifying in the dim tavern, worse than a ghost's wail. Duan Yun, holding her head, said, "You see, she has already become enlightened. What about you? Quick, run." The two red building women, whose clothes had been taken off, dared not linger and turned to escape using the ghostly body technique. But at that moment, Duan Yun, who had already removed his boots, lifted his left foot and instantly kicked out two streams of toe strength. Smack! Smack! The toe strength collided with their bodies. Ah! Ah! Two screams soared high as the two red building women, flying mid-air, spun and crashed heavily to the ground. One of them struggled to get up, but Duan Yun's other hand was also pressed on her skull. A bizarre suction force instantly adhered to her head, lifting her entire body up. Now, with both hands, Duan Yun wildly absorbed with beaming divine skill, infusing these utterly wicked red building women with a sense of heroism. The remaining airborne red building woman realized it was her only chance in life. She tried to struggle and crawl away, but Duan Yun kicked once again. This time it was sword chi from the toe sword. The sword chi turned into a white flash, brutally stabbing into the crawling red building woman. With a whoosh, her abdomen was pierced by the sword chi, sending a stream of bright red blood flying, as her whole body was flung backward by the force. With a bang, her exposed body crashed through the window behind her, falling off the sheer cliff. Below, only a series of tragically piercing screams gradually drifted away and vanished. What was once a noisy tavern suddenly became eerily quiet, leaving only the sound of Duan Yun absorbing true chi with the beaming divine skill. "I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero." In the next instant, the two red building women whose heads were caught spoke in unison. This suddenly numbed the scalp of the Tang sect people. Under the gloomy night sky, the two unclothed red building women had their heads held by the man before them, the bizarre suction immobilizing them, their urine flowing, and they even bizarrely blurted out phrases like, "I want to be a hero." What a wicked and terrifying sight this was. The people from Tang sect had never seen old Demon Duan, only heard recent rumors about him, who was nearly described as a fiendish devil. Yu State and Yun State were separated by some distance, each with their own martial arts circles that boasted about their own state's martial artists. Many in Yu State thought that people from Yun State exaggerated the terror of old Demon Duan to showcase the emergence and prowess of martial artists in Yun State. But if this man before them was indeed old Demon Duan, it could only be said that there was no exaggeration, perhaps even understated. At this moment, Duan Yun turned his head and looked over. The young master of the Tang family and the Tang sect disciples were so scared that their hearts skipped a beat. Would old Demon Duan refine us all as well? Chapter 112. The Old Demon's Young Hero Game. Duan Yun held the heads of two red house girls in his hands and turned around, scaring the Tang sect members into a cold sweat. At that moment, old Demon Duan let go, and the two fairies from Red House who had nearly raped them all to death just now collapsed to the ground limply. Had they escaped the wolf's den only to enter the tiger's lair? Duan Yun returned to his chair, put his boots back on and said, "I am Duan Lang. Might you require any assistance?" Hearing old Demon Duan offering help, the group felt their scalps go numb. One of the Tang sect disciples, who enjoyed listening to storytelling, suddenly remembered the storyteller's secrets to seeking life from old Demon, and hastily said, "So it's young hero Duan Lang. Thank you for saving our lives." Everyone snapped to it, exclaiming with wagging tongues, "Young hero Duan's righteousness. Many thanks to young hero Duan for saving our lives." "Thank you, young hero." Duan Yun, who was always kind to others, felt even better hearing himself called young hero. At that point, a A Tang family young master gasped heavily, "Young hero Duan, please help me get an antidote." He was clearly a master and had persisted the longest under the influence of Xiandi's water. Yet his complexion was now the most unsightly, lips a severe shade of purple. Duan Yun took out a porcelain bottle from his embrace. He nodded, and Duan Yun fed the green pill into his mouth. Not until then did the color return to the Tang family young master's face. Duan Yun looked at the other Tang sect disciples and asked, "Will it work if they take this to detoxify as well?" The other Tang sect disciples also showed a strange look on their faces. The paralyzing effect of Xiandi's water was extremely strong, and the young master's cultivation was deeper than theirs. He had lasted the longest, so it made no sense for him to be worse off. The Tang family young master originally wanted to refuse to answer, but since it was a question posed by old demon Duan, how could he dare not to reply? He could only honestly say, "Young hero Duan, they need not take this. The urine of this woman is poisonous, though Xiandi's water itself does not seem to kill." At that, everyone recalled how, when the Red House girl was struck by old demon Duan. No, young hero Duan's finger strength, her urine splashed everywhere, hitting their young master's face, who happened to have his mouth open at that time. Duan Yun exclaimed in surprise, "Poison in urine? How malicious!" Then he looked toward that ringleader and raised his hand. A suction force instantly emerged from his palm, pulling the Red House girl from 3 feet away straight into the air toward him. This beaming divine skill grew stronger in suction force the more true chi it absorbed. The Red House girl was already in a state of collapse, but the moment her head touched Duan Yun's palm, she showed an ecstatic expression. "I want to be a hero." No matter how many times they had seen it each time, the Tang sect members were terrified to the core. "What's going on?" Duan Yun asked. The Red House girl said in a dazed tone, "Recently, I was rewarded by the Tower Master and partook immortal fruits for cultivation to form a Xiandi. These fruits are no ordinary items. They are poisonous to outsiders. Forming Xiandi? What is its relation to Xiandi's water?" Inside Red House, forming Xiandi signifies the possibility of returning to the heavenly court. Xiandi grows below the navel. Once its 9 petals bloom, one can ascend. I have yet not formed Xiandi, yet the young Tower Master was born with a sacred body of Xiandi, possessing it from birth. The liquid that emerges during her cultivation is Xiandi's water, not belonging to the mortal realm. Anyone who ingests it becomes fully paralyzed and immobile. Thinking about what had been mixed into the wine he had drunk, Duan Yun felt a chill go down his spine. The Red House madwoman was too insidious and perverted. Leaving them unchecked was simply unnerving. How can the poison be countered? Xiandi's water is not a poison, but its paralytic strength is unmatched. One must urinate as quickly as possible to expel it. The faster, the better, or there might be lasting effects. Peeing? Hearing this solution, the Tang sect members thought of old demon Duan's method to make people wet themselves. A shiver ran down their spines. Surely the woman didn't say this on purpose. "I want to be a hero." Suddenly, she blurted out the phrase again, eyes glazed over before fainting. Duan Yun released his grip, remarking, "I absorbed too much. No matter. Now that the antidote is known, I will assist everyone in detoxifying." As Duan Yun extended his fingers, the Tang sect group visibly tensed, instinctively wanting to resist. Some even thought about using laxatives for detoxification. At that moment, the Tang sect young master loudly said, "Troubling young hero Duan." Everyone reacted. The young master indeed lived up to his title, truly farsighted. Old demon Duan most enjoyed playing the role of the demon-slaying, life-saving hero. At this moment, if he wanted to save you, you mustn't oppose him. If not, he will first turn you into a woman before killing you. Seeing no objections from the crowd, Duan Yun flicked his fingers on both hands. 2 streams of flirtatious finger strength shot out, accompanied by a whizzing sound. "Oh! Ooh!" For a moment, the Tang sect members inside the inn, led by the Tang sect young master, one after another knelt or fell, trembling, moaning as they lost control of their bladders. The sensation was so intense and yet so embarrassing. Especially since two of them were Tang sect female disciples, the embarrassment was even greater. They looked at old demon Duan, feeling an overwhelming fear, while their cheeks reddened, stirring peculiar emotions. Was he not the first man to make them end up like this? But even so, they continued to play along with old demon Duan's hero game, once again offering thanks. People of the Tang sect were accustomed to having their every whim catered to. Who would dare to defy them? Men, women, children, all would be captured to test poisons. Even the mice in their households would be poisoned in myriad radiant hues. Especially this Tang sect young master Tang Yu, known as Little Bao, who had grown up amidst various poisons and was spoiled by his birth mother, became arrogant and willful. Sometimes, when there were no suitable subjects for poison testing, he would buy living people to test poisons, his methods cruel and ruthless. This is also why, in Yu State and Yun State, the mere mention of the Tang sect changes people's complexion, and why everyone goes out of their way to avoid disciples of the Tang family wearing deerskin gloves. This historically prestigious clan was the ruler of Yu State. But at this moment, they have encountered old demon Duan, humiliated and shamed as mice before a cat, not to mention having to be tearfully grateful. The hearts of the Tang sect people were in torment, knowing if others learned of this, they would never be able to show their faces in the martial world again. It would be even more difficult to hold their heads up within the Tang family. Luckily, the people nearby had already scattered. Outside the restaurant, a middle-aged man with a red silk headscarf stealthily observed everything and scribbled with his pen. In an instant, old demon Duan caused the red building women and the Tang sect people to wet themselves, the epitome of evil and madness. What a character! This old demon Duan. What a master of perversion and humiliation. Whether it's the people of the Tang sect or the fairies of the Red House, he truly treats all equally. With the reappearance of old demon Duan in the martial world, it is probably going to witness another bloody storm. No, this time it's a storm of urine. Tonight's ordeal provided the bloodthirsty storyteller with excellent material. At this moment, Duan Yun said, "Young master of the Tang family, just now I learned from these two reformed female heroes that their goal was to capture you. There is a Red House stronghold right at the foot of this mountain, so you should pretend to be a hostage and join me in demon extermination." Demon extermination? Me? Tang Yu, the young master's newly changed underpants, almost got wet again. Having been toyed with to this state, old demon Duan still wasn't satisfied and wanted more. Seeing old demon Duan's sincere, heroic demeanor, Tang Yu could only grit his teeth and say, "Everyone has the right to eliminate evil heretics. I am willing to accompany young hero Duan on this journey." Thus, under the concerned gazes of the Tang sect people, their young master followed old demon Duan and two brainwashed fairies of the Red House. Since old demon Duan wanted to play the hero game of demon extermination, and the young master just so happened to be playing the role of a hostage, they dared not approach for the moment. "Will the young master be all right?" one of the Tang sect disciples asked. Another answered, "Once targeted by old demon Duan, who can say for sure? One thing first, no one speaks of tonight's event." One of them said gravely, "Whoever speaks out will be struck by thunder." On this, there was no disagreement, because tonight's ordeal was truly shameful. "Junior sister, don't cry. It's all because old demon Duan's hand is too dark." A senior brother took the opportunity to comfort his humiliated junior sister. "But he still saved our lives," murmured the humiliated junior sister. "Ah? I actually think he's a good person, and he's good-looking too," another humiliated junior sister added. "Ah?" For a moment, the faces of several Tang sect brothers turned green, their expressions dramatically changing. Oh no! Old demon Duan had also planted a Tao heart demon seed in them. This mountain is called Qingwang Mountain and is within the territory of Yu State. The path up the mountain was tough to traverse, but the way down was extremely quick. The two red building women were dressed, still dripping wet, leading Duan Yun and Tang Yu down the mountain. Along the way, Tang Yu noticed old demon Duan was still brainwashing these poor red building women. If you want to be heroes, what do you most want to do right now? Kill that leading mad woman Zhao Shunshin, declared the lead red building woman with a vacant look in her eyes. Why do you want to kill her? Duan Yun asked. Because she's utterly reprehensible. That mad woman just sits there enjoying herself every time, leaving all the dirty and tiring work to us. Yet she takes all the credit. Red building female heroes should definitely slash down such red house mad women. Listening to this utterly paradoxical talk, Tang Yu sweated profusely. Red building female heroes. Is there such a species? This woman truly has been driven mad by the old demon. At the foot of the mountain there was a grove of trees. Within the grove there was a path. Deep down the path there was a villa. From the outside, the villa looked dilapidated, like a haunted house. This reminded Duan Yun of Yuzhu Villa, but when one of the red building women pushed open one of the doors, a scene of lavish luxury emerged. The ground was laid with soft, exquisite carpets, and on the mahogany tables were placed fresh fruit and wine in night-light cups. A seductive red building woman was lying back, being attended by two red house girls, thoroughly enjoying herself. Upon seeing the returning red building woman, she giggled and said, "Little sister, you did well. You've brought back the young master of the Tang family. Ah, and there's an additional handsome gentleman." The red building woman's eyes gleamed greedily at Duan Yun. "This is young hero Duan Lang, who said he wanted to come and admire sister's charm," said the conquered red building woman with a blank look. "Ah, young hero, ah, sister is so considerate, knowing that I like young." "Wait, Duan. Old demon Duan." Duan Yun drew his newly forged longsword, his expression grim, and said, "You group of red house mad women really love to slander, calling who old demon Duan?" He said, "Duan Lang, Duan Lang. Today, young hero Duan will act for heaven." Ah! Suddenly, piercing screams erupted within the villa. Chapter 113. Demon extermination is entirely gearing up. The name Old Demon Duan seemed to possess a magical spellbinding power. As soon as it was uttered, every woman from Red House, whether pouring wine or peeling grapes, froze in place as if they had been struck by an acupoint hit. At the next moment, along with young hero Duan's declaration of acting for heaven, the leading woman of Red House couldn't help but let out a bizarre scream, shouting, "Sisters, enemy attack! Attack!" Clang, clang, clang. Doors of nearby rooms burst open one by one, some even breaking through the roof tiles, revealing several Red House fairies either naked or in transparent clothing. Upon receiving their orders, these Red House fairies swarmed towards the room of Tang Yu and Little Bao. Tang Yu and Little Bao only felt shadows flickering outside, ghost-like, which made them shiver with fear. These women of Red House in Yu State had somehow established such a massive stronghold on their territory, unbeknownst to them. Couldn't possibly be just to capture them? While the leading Zhao Shunshin was shouting, "Sisters, enemy attack, attack!" she herself suddenly flipped the table and dashed towards the back. Only then did two Red House fairies inside the room react, stepping on the floor and gliding upward, attempting to break through the roof tiles. As they ascended, their sheer garments had already slipped off, falling like red clouds over Duan Yun. With a swoosh, a crescent-shaped sword light suddenly flared. Immediately after, two miserable screams were heard. As their clothes split into two, the two Red House women were also cleaved by the moonlight-like sword light, bifurcated. Their lower halves were severed, yet their upper bodies continued to ascend. With two thuds, they eventually broke through the roof, but only their upper bodies with astonished faces emerged. Under the moonlight, such a scene was grotesquely chilling, causing the incoming Red House fairies to pause momentarily. This hesitation led to an abrupt change. Snap, snap, snap. A series of whooshing sounds filled the air. Jade sword finger sword energy shot out like a sudden downpour. The first two Red House fairies were instantly perforated, their blood splattering the roof like red rain. Ah! A burst of wild laughter suddenly echoed. With a boom, the tiles on the roof exploded into fragments, revealing a towering figure armed with swords. The young hero Duan would exterminate these insane women thoroughly today. Standing below, Tang Yu and Little Bao were stunned, because they had just witnessed how Duan Yun released the Jade Sword Finger Sword energy. His finger flickered, forming an afterimage. With each flicker, a moonlight-like sword energy shot out, dazzlingly fast. Tang Yu and Little Bao, who was also skilled in hidden weapons in comparison trials with his peers, where others would hit him once, he could hit back 5 times. But facing old demon Duan? No, he did not want to confront old demon Duan. At that moment, just hearing the shout, "Embrace Sparrow Tail!" Duan Yun's location revealed a frightful sword Immortal Dharma with a deadly aura. From behind the sword Immortal Dharma, dozens of arms stretched out suddenly. Jade Sword Finger. The Dharma's arms extended, blossoming like a lotus, and black sword energy shot out like a sudden rainstorm towards the side. With a bang, Tang Yu and Little Bao were knocked to the ground. The nearby roof and walls collapsed under the barrage. Also hit were 3 red house fairies in midair, bleeding. Isn't this excessive? True chi doesn't cost money. Sisters, deploy Heavenly Maiden Flower Scattering Formation. Seeing the ferocity of old demon Duan, Zhao Shinshin loudly commanded. At once, about a dozen floating red house fairies began to spin, forming a blooming flower from above. Shoo! 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 Thin threads shot down from the hands of the red house fairies, swirling with the formation. Bang! 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 Walls and rooftops were sliced open, bursting out loud, making the air seem like it was suddenly filled with a sharp, huge net, aiming to slaughter Duan Yun. Good spinning! I'll join too. Transforming 7-fold spring rain. Almost simultaneously, a wild whirlwind of sword shadows and cutting winds arose, like an immediate hurricane. Boom, boom, boom. A house collapsed instantly, the dust and debris spiraling into the sky. From there, Tang Yu and Little Bao could only see the cold face of Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal. What is this? A deity? A monster? Following this, the swirling spring rain-like sword light also soared. Who? For red building women were instantaneously chopped into pieces, their long legs, heads, and loquats flying wildly in the air. Old demon Duan's hands are deadly. Retreat quickly. However, after the 7th spring rain, the formation of red building women had already collapsed. They no longer had the courage to continue battling and quickly employed the ghostly body technique to flee. Thinking of fleeing? That means you are not cooperating with this young hero Duan in acting for heaven. With a swoosh, Duan Yun, who had been standing there, also started to spin. A hurricane formed by sword lights and sword shadows suddenly intensified, sweeping towards the 3 fleeing red building women. The red building women, originally flying in the air, suddenly felt a terrifying suction force, as if entering water, significantly slowing their movement. This slowing down made them fast targets for Duan Yun's bladed storm. Ah! Ah! The shrill screams and horrified faces of the 3 red building women were instantly engulfed, turning into pieces of flesh flying about. After these 3 were killed, Duan Yun, with swords in hand, tapped on the ground and propelled himself into the air. Thinking of running, just as one of the red building women flew over the courtyard wall, a sudden surge of powerful energy filled the air, forcing her to counterattack with a palm strike. With a bang, the flirtatious toe strength collided with the palm of the red building woman. Her eyes brightened with joy, finding that she had not only blocked the attack, but could also use the rebounding force to fly even further. However, the next moment, as she celebrated with a loud "oh," her energetic dance began. With a swoosh, at the moment her crotch burst open, a jade sword finger pierced through her head. The body of the red building woman heavily smashed onto the ground. Her head pierced through, eyes still open in a look combining a desire for life and pain unbearable to live with. After one hit of flirtatious toe strength, Duan Yun skewed his body, using the downward force to dart to the side. In that instant, his posture was graceful, like riding the wind, turning into a lingering afterimage, truly embodying a dashing figure. With a swift intercrossing of blades, he swept out. With a swoosh, Duan Yun passed between two red building women. Only after he landed did the two bodies, suspended in mid-air, shiver, splitting apart like torn paper. As the leading sister here, Zhao Shinshin's eyes were sharp, aware of old demon Duan's terror. Thus she was the fastest to escape. She desperately used her movement technique to escape the village, only for two figures to suddenly emerge from below, grabbing her thighs with a pull. Zhao Shinshin was already terribly frightened, and this sudden pull made her panic even more. At that moment, she finally saw clearly that it was Hong and Wang Qing, who had gone out on a mission, shouting, "What are you doing? Run quickly. I want to be a hero. I want to be a hero," they said in unison. At the next moment, they both struck her head simultaneously. As the eldest sister here, Zhao Shinshin naturally had the highest skills among the red building women, her inner strength furiously circulating, withstanding the palms of these two heroes, and then counterattacked with two palms. The two red building heroes were knocked out, smashing through the wall. Zhao Shinshin endured these two palms, her eyes and ears bleeding, but she didn't dare stop, rapidly continuing her escape, because if old demon Duan slayed all her sisters, he would come to kill her next. She only hoped her sisters could hold on a bit longer. At that moment, she heard a voice shouting, "I'll hit," and instinctively raised her hand. With a snapping sound, flesh shattered, a sword chi piercing through her arm and shoulder. She saw a swirling wind formed by sword light and shadows dropping from the wall, smashing towards her. Yes, she saw only a swirling wind formed by blades, not even catching sight of Duan Yun within this whirlwind.
No.
With a bang, the swirling wind dropped like a spinning top, and before Zhao Shinshin darkened eyes, she turned into pieces of flesh. With the last one slain, Duan Yun stood there, breathing heavily, feeling a long-missed exhilaration. Indeed, a young hero should act on behalf of acting for heaven. By the wall, the two red building heroes had their heads smashed, clearly beyond survival. Duan Yun looked at them and said, "You did well. You are heroes." The two women with shattered heads looked at him and died just then. Duan Yun couldn't help but exhale softly, closing their eyes. In their lives, they were both deceptive and murderous mad women. In their last moments, moved by his supreme heroic spirit, they became heroes, ultimately a redemption for the flirtatious ladies. When Duan Yun returned to the manor, he saw Tang Yu and Little Bao standing there, eyes vacant, with half an arm on one shoulder and a loquat on the other, their looks uniquely distinctive. Duan Yun looked at him and said, "Mr. Tang, it's done. United, we show the evil heretics truly have no place to stand." "Done? United?" Tang Yu and Little Bao said with a vacant face. The next moment, they suddenly snapped out of their daze, their backs straightened up strictly with a serious expression. To have been of little help while young hero Duan was acting for heaven is truly an honor for me. Chapter 114. The old demon transfers his power. Will you practice it? On the cliff, the wind was strong. After old demon Duan forcibly detoxed the Tang sect members, their bodies quickly recovered from the paralysis. These followers of Tang Yu and Little Bao from the Tang sect moved very efficiently. After old demon Duan took his own son away, the inn that had been contaminated with urine had been cleaned up. Even the chef had started cooking again, and it seemed not much different from before the great battle with the Red House Fairy. Even the Jianghu people who had slept outside and left cleanly were returning, some collapsing onto the bamboo rafts and sleeping soundly. Young master was taken by old demon Duan to act for heaven, and that sounded rather strange. So they started eating. People always need to eat. Although the inn was clean, considering the scene that had just happened, the Tang sect members decided to eat outside. Thus, tables and benches were quickly set up beside the cliff, and the chef prepared some authentic dishes like maokshuang, boiled pork slices, and pig ears with chili, and they began to eat again. Next to them, a Tang sect disciple looked at the gray donkey and said, "Whose donkey is this? Let's roast it." A female Tang sect disciple said, "It belongs to young hero Duan." I think you want to be roasted instead. Speaking of young hero Duan, her face turned red. The Tang sect disciple turned pale and said, "No, I don't want that." While eating, they naturally talked about young master. They were worried about the young master's safety, but since he was taken away by old demon Duan, if they rashly followed and angered old demon Duan, wouldn't that leave young master without an intact corpse? Do you think something will happen to young master? What should we do if something happens? Said one young Tang sect disciple. It's hard to say, but do you think young master will make a move this time? Said a middle-aged man. He was the oldest here, had followed young master the longest, and knew the most. Make a move? What do you mean? The young disciple asked. Young master had been kidnapped 4 times before, and in 3 of those instances, he secretly used poison and stealthily killed those who kidnapped him. The middle-aged man recalled. Young master was kidnapped 4 times? Is he that unlucky? The newcomer couldn't help but sigh. The middle-aged man ate a piece of pork belly and said, It couldn't be helped. Young master has been studying poisons since he was young, and as the saying goes, medicine and poison stem from the same root, and he also consumed many precious medicinal ingredients. Therefore, many evildoers set their sights on him, wanting to use young master for refining medicines. Originally, if young master stayed in Tang family castle, nothing would have happened, but he's restless and always thinking about adventuring outside, which creates opportunities. However, young master proved himself worthy. Even though he was kidnapped, he managed to kill those who kidnapped him. You should know that those people were much more skilled than young master. This was why the middle-aged man mentioned whether young master would make a move this time. Another man shook his head and said, It might be difficult for him to make a move this time. They had witnessed how old demon Duan cruelly harmed the Red House Fairy and experienced the process of being forcibly detoxed by old demon Duan. Knowing how terrifying old demon Duan truly was beyond imagination. Even now, they felt fear when mentioning that man, and the 2 Tang sect sisters even clenched their legs tightly, trying their best not to recall that experience that was either delightful or shameful. And if young master dared to plot against such a terrifying figure, one could only say that young master truly lived up to being the heavenly pride of Tang sect, but he might likely be instantly refined by old demon Duan. Do you think, if something happens to young master, we can survive? Asked the worried young disciple. The middle-aged man said, Who knows? Let's leave it to fate. It's not the first time young master has been easily caught. The sect has long circulated rumors that he is the innate captured holy body, meant to endure trials and tribulations of being kidnapped before achieving greatness. These people all knew that the Tang family had 9 young masters. For someone to become the family head wasn't an easy thing. Tang Tian, the 3rd young master of the Tang family, was said to have given up the struggle, immersing himself in singing and dancing, continuously practicing for 2.5 years. While the middle-aged man was elaborating on the innate captured holy body theory about young master, suddenly a female disciple exclaimed, Young hero Duan and young master are back. Seeing young master truly returned, the middle-aged man was so scared he almost fell off the chair and down the cliff. That was too fast. The newly warmed wine hadn't even cooled down. Yet old demon Duan and young master had already eradicated the Red House stronghold. In the eyes of the people, they saw their own young master, Tang Yu Little Bao, and old demon Duan returning from the mountain path laughing and chatting, looking like they were greatly enjoying their conversation. Tang Yu Little Bao arrived in front of the inn, watching his subordinates eating and drinking spicily outside, and remained silent for a moment. Well, as long as he remembered it privately. At this moment, Duan Yun couldn't help but say, After spending time together, I didn't expect young Master Bao, a descendant of a prestigious family, to also have a chivalrous heart. These Red House mad women blatantly intended to harm you. It just so happens I have a finger technique that restrains these mad women. If young Master Bao doesn't mind, I'd be glad to teach it to young Master for the purpose of demon extermination. Hearing that old demon Duan was about to transmit his cultivation technique, everyone's faces changed dramatically. But Tang Yu and Little Bao remained unaffected and instead expressed their gratitude. Reject it? How could we possibly refuse? Young hero Duan's offer to transmit his technique is something I could only wish for. At this moment, Duan Yun took out a secret book and said, "This is the Sword Finger's secret manual. Young master, you are intelligent and talented. As long as you practice according to this manual, you will succeed. I have other matters to attend to and won't be able to give further guidance for now. If I'm free later, I'll come and visit." Tang Yu and Little Bao said, "Since young hero Duan has other commitments, it wouldn't be right for us to insist on him staying. We shall meet another day when the time is right. May the running waters stay evergreen." Duan Yun said this and then rode away on Little Gray. As Duan Yun's figure disappeared down the path, Tang Yu and Little Bao's body slumped, nearly falling to the ground if it weren't for his men's support. That was terrifying. "Young master, what should we do next?" the middle-aged man asked. Go home. Go home," Tang Yu and Little Bao replied, still in shock. "Hurry and prepare the carriage. The young master is going home." Someone immediately shouted instructions. Tang Yu and Little Bao had originally planned to swagger through Yun State to enjoy himself, having grown bored of staying in Yu State for too long. But before they could even leave Yu State, they first encountered the Red Building women and then old Demon Duan, scaring him into wanting only to go home. Yes, old Demon Duan had cast a great shadow on him. He felt like he had lost half his life playing along with this charade. Only Tang Family Castle was truly safe. He decided, unless old Demon Duan was dealt with, he wouldn't step foot outside his home. Just then, a young disciple spoke up, "Young master, about the cultivation technique old Demon Duan passed on to you? Are you going to practice it or not? Are you crazy? Who would dare to practice anything transmitted by old Demon Duan?" The middle-aged man responded. Yes, exactly. The others agreed. Within the martial world, there were bizarre tales about old Demon Duan's transfers of power. But old Demon Duan mentioned he would visit later. "He might be coming to test you," the young disciple remarked. That comment startled everyone into fear again. Yes, if you don't practice the technique old Demon Duan gave you, wouldn't that be seen as disrespectful? "What should we do?" someone anxiously asked. "What's there to fear? Even if old Demon Duan is formidable, would he dare to scale Tang Family Castle?" The middle-aged man stated. At this, everyone remembered again. Right, the Tang Family Castle is known as an invincible fortress in the martial arts world. Even if old Demon Duan was formidable, how could he overthrow Tang Family Castle? Just a moment ago, they had indeed been terrified by old Demon Duan, forgetting that fact. However, now, having witnessed old Demon Duan's mercilessness, Tang Yu and Little Bao looked grim. He even doubted the safety of Tang Family Castle. Old Demon Duan's methods and conduct could not be assessed by common sense. Thinking about old Demon Duan possibly coming to assess him, and fearing that a perfunctory effort might breed resentment, Tang Yu and Little Bao felt a wave of unease and said, "Let someone else practice this technique first. If there are no issues, then I, the young master, will practice it, but not too deeply, just enough to show some proficiency." "Deep thoughts, young master, deep thoughts indeed," the middle-aged man exclaimed. "Old Zhang, since you're so eager, you practice this technique first," Tang Yu and Little Bao suggested. "Me?" The middle-aged man felt like his soul was about to leave his body. "The innate captured holy body, your voice was very loud. I heard everything clearly. Remember, if you don't show any results in half a month, you know the consequences," Tang Yu and Little Bao said earnestly. "Understood, young master." By then old Zhang, who was so spirited before, felt like his soul was floating. Practicing old Demon Duan's technique seemed even more terrifying than testing poison. But he looked at the secret book in his hands, almost crying. Chapter 115. The world is too crazy. Young hero Duan needs to intensify efforts. At night, only sparse stars hung in the sky. By this time of year, the weather had already cooled. After nightfall, not only was there fog between the mountains and forests, but frost had even formed. Duan Yun sat in an open space, lighting a bonfire. Little Gray was lying on the ground, already fast asleep. After days of continuous travel, Even the tough donkey was tired. Being a young hero is really quite a tough ordeal, Duan Yun remarked, poking at the bonfire with his long sword. In order to quickly eliminate Zhu Xiang and Zhu Haimian, he had traveled for several consecutive days. He could have stayed at an inn tonight, but he gave up the idea. At this moment, Duan Yun couldn't help but reminisce about the subways, buses, and trains of his past life. Indeed, in this world, if there were trains or subways, he could have easily reached Zhu Yan Manor while eating instant noodles and humming songs. Maybe after wiping out Zhu Haimian's family, he could even catch a train to Yu State City for a meal of hot pot. It would have been wonderful. Unfortunately, he was in this absurd world of martial heroes. Transportation was severely inconvenient, and it was full of lunatics and perverts. After reaching the border between Yu State and Yun State, Duan Yun found that bamboo was the most abundant plant here. The graveyard outside Yuzhu Villa had enough bamboo, but here there was even more, stretching continuously, resembling a vast green ocean. Now, in this night, this ocean seemed even more profound. As the wind blew, the surrounding area was filled with rustling sounds, as if many people were whispering secretly. Duan Yun used to think that bamboo matched well with scholars and scholars' pavilions, which all had a kind of elegance. But now his thoughts had changed. Bamboo matched well with graveyards. In such bamboo forests, graveyards were invariably present, as was the case in the graveyard outside Yuzhu Villa, and it was even more so at this junction between Yu State and Yun State. However, the current Duan Yun had long been accustomed to calmly making camp near graveyards. Young hero Duan, with his heroic spirit, naturally feared no filth. But at this moment he was still pondering one question. That was whether ghosts really existed in this world. He felt they probably did. Whether it was the thunder-listening skill of the Thunder God and Mother sect, divine iron falling from the heavens, or the Red House mad women forming connections, always dreaming of returning to the heavenly court. All these hinted that this world was not strictly materialistic. This world was absurd, mysterious, just as profound as the sea of bamboo, hiding countless secrets. At this time, Duan Yun also became tired, wrapped himself in his clothes, and lay down to sleep. The night deepened, and all was silent. It seemed that the only things left between heaven and earth were the bonfire, and beside the bonfire, Duan Yun and the gray donkey. Duan Yun did not sleep deeply. Ever since he entered the martial world and started roughing it in the wilderness, he had maintained the habit of not sleeping too soundly. For no other reason than that this world was too dangerous. Suddenly, Duan Yun woke from his sleep. He heard a noise and Little Gray woke up as well. Looking uneasy, Little Gray stared in a certain direction of the bamboo forest, seemingly afraid. Duan Yun immediately sat up and placed his hand on the hilt of his knife. In the night, slight noises came from the bamboo forest. These sounds were like something chewing on hard objects, which in such an environment sounded quite eerie. Duan Yun's first thought was of the rumor that Xiong Japa chews on human fingers like they were beans. Perhaps there really were bears in this area. He wasn't afraid of bears. But what about Xiong Japa, who was allegedly eating human fingers? Duan Yun gently exhaled, still holding the knife hilt, and tiptoed towards the direction of the noise. His true chi circulated through his body, filling the space between heaven and earth. Thus the noise made by his steps was minimal. Perhaps even a cat with padded paws would not make less noise than him. Sometimes the wind blew through the bamboo forest, causing the chewing sound to fluctuate in intensity. In the darkness of night, and with many shady spots within the bamboo forest, it was easy to get the illusion that many terrifying demons were hiding there. Duan Yun gripped a bamboo stalk and with a push, his agile body leaped upwards. From high up in the bamboo, one could see farther. In the next moment, Duan Yun indeed saw a bear chewing on something. Not just one, but two. They were large and small, turned away from him, looking almost human. But Duan Yun was no longer afraid. His fear of the likes of Xiong Japa had dissipated because this was no ordinary bear, but a national treasure. Two pandas were sitting there eating bamboo shoots and bamboo, distinctly black and white in color. In this nighttime bamboo forest, The noise they made sounded a lot like Xiong Japa chewing on human fingers. It must be said, skin really does matter. Although both are bears, hearing about man-eating bears easily brings to mind Xiong Japa, whereas these pandas right in front of him just seemed silly and rather scary. Especially since these pandas, one big and one small, also exuded a sense of warmth. Duan Yun slid down from the bamboo and couldn't help but recall past experiences of people squeezing into zoos to see pandas. Unexpectedly, in this realm he encountered two wild ones. Wait a minute. In his past life, giant pandas were national treasures. Even if he wanted to steal one for fun, it was only a joke online, otherwise it would be illegal. But what about in this world? Catching pandas isn't illegal here, right? When young hero Duan is free, he must catch two pandas to keep, ideally training one to be a mount. Otherwise, wouldn't his journey through time be in vain? The next day, Duan Yun arrived in a small city surrounded by green bamboo and discovered the joke about people in Sichuan keeping pandas in every household from the internet had become reality here. Not every household had one, but in this small city, at least 1/3 of the families kept pandas. The tea house where Duan Yun was sitting even had a panda with a tray on its back, serving tea and snacks to guests. On his way, seeing multiple people riding pandas was no longer a rare sight. In Duan Yun's eyes, this was very cute and stylish, making little Gray not seem so elegantly handsome anymore. Upon inquiring, he found out he had arrived in the Mei family's territory. The Mei family of Yu State was a famous animal training family, particularly skilled in raising pandas. These pandas are really easy to raise. After working, they go outside to find bamboo to eat, come back to sleep after eating, and continue working once awake, the tea house owner explained. At this moment, Duan Yun gained a new level of respect for the panda that was busy serving tea and fruits everywhere. It turns out that pandas in this area had become social animals exploited by people. No, even worse than social animals. They only get a place to stay. They must fend for food and clothing themselves, and apart from sleeping, they just work. Compared to the national treasures from his previous life, it was a complete reversal. Very well, after young hero finishes dealing with Zhu Wumian, he must get one too. It wouldn't be a waste of his strenuous traversal then. Duan Yun learned that Zhu Yen Manor wasn't far, just beyond 2 mountains. Young brother, are you heading to Zhu Yen Manor's territory? While mixing tea for him, the tea house owner couldn't help but ask. Duan Yun replied, yes, I'm going there for some business. Young brother, you're young and handsome. If it's not urgent, you better take a detour, the tea house owner said. Is Zhu Yen Manor not peaceful recently? Duan Yun asked, puzzled. Has Zhu Yen Manor ever been peaceful? It's inherently dangerous over there, but I mean anywhere near the manor is best avoided. Duan Yun, wanting to understand more about that area, asked, is there a reason for that? The Zhu family is extremely cruel, especially the second lady Zhu. When she sees good-looking men and women, especially couples, she shaves them down into human sticks. My own niece was once mistaken to enter that area and was shaved to death along with a man. As he spoke, the voice of the tea house owner changed a bit. Can no one intervene with this indiscriminate shaving? Duan Yun asked. Who dares to intervene? In that territory, the Zhu family is supreme. Who dares to trouble them? Especially the most cruel second lady. Why does she shave people like that? Duan Yun asked. She says ordinary people don't deserve to have love, especially those who marry only once in a lifetime. She kills every couple she sees. Duan Yun exclaimed, that's insane. Yes, it's terrifying. Although you're alone, young brother, that area is really not peaceful. Don't risk your life just to do some business, the tea house owner advised. Duan Yun nodded and said, thanks for the guidance, shopkeeper. He verbally acknowledged but had already secretly noted down this madwoman, second lady Zhu. Thus, his targets for eradication increased by one more person. This madwoman is destined to die. Now that he heard it, the entire Zhu family seemed lacking good people. Might as well eradicate them all, and it would also benefit the common people. Otherwise, even falling in love would be a risk. This world's evil and crazy people are just too numerous. He needed to intensify his eradication efforts and show no mercy. Chapter 116. I just want to kill the two of you, or be killed by you. Zhu Yen Manor, a name rich with poetic connotations. The owner of the manor, Zhu Haimian, believes himself to be as poetic as the manor. Every flower and rock, every blade of grass and tree here was designed by him. He has always been a person with a keen sense of aesthetics. And he selects women in the same way. For instance, the current Lady Chening of the Huangshan sword sect, his second lady, is now reducing a man and a woman into human sticks with supremely elegant postures. The man dressed as a coachman, with a swish, has just had his right hand severed by a bright yellow long sword, emitting a piercing scream of agony. Do you give her this hand as a gift? Or both hands together? Lady Chen asked. The man cried out tragically, My lady, I used only this one hand. Ah! As soon as the words fell, his other hand was also chopped off. Presenting gifts to girls, truly such infatuation. I, as your lady, cannot stand seeing such infatuation. With that, Lady Chun turned to the woman and said, As my maidservant, you should know my temperament. Which hand did you use to receive the gift? The bound woman burst into tears and said, My lady, please spare us for the many years of service I have given you. My lady and him? Ha ha ha. If you had said just you, I would have given you a chance to kill him and thereby save your life, but the result. With a swish, one of the woman's arms had already fallen to the ground. At this moment, Lady Chun turned her gaze back to the man and said, To meet her, surely you have taken many steps. Which leg exerted the most? The man's thigh was bloodily cut off. Only by then did the pair fully realize that there was no way out from this woman's hands. You witch, is this malicious nature of yours known to your parents? Damn harpy! Ah! That's all you're capable of, your parents are no different. Why don't you go kill them? Faced with the curses and insults from the man and woman, Lady Chun, on the contrary, showed a pleased smile and said, Continue! Continue! Witnessing you unfortunate lovebirds dying like this, unable to even hold hands before death, fills me with great delight. Saying that, the sword in her hand moved even faster, slicing off the man and woman's remaining limbs. Lady Chun is a beauty, famous in the martial world since her prime. She is the cherished daughter of the sect leader couple of the renowned Huangshan sword sect, a favored lady spoiled by her parents since childhood. She has never suffered much hardship, nor faced obstacles, and at a young age, she mastered the Huangshan swordsmanship to a certain level of excellence. The martial world claims she is a rare sword Dao prodigy. Until she met Zhu Haimian. The rumors of Zhu Haimian's fondness for female heroes started with Lady Chun. Zhu Haimian is a demon with a notorious reputation, and also a pig head, which doesn't sound pleasant at all. Naturally, Lady Chun wouldn't bother with him. But who knew, through manipulative means, she gradually fell in love with this man amidst her initial resistance. This man told her that he had no love for his official wife and that it was true love only with her, swearing he would only love her. So, she believed him. Subsequent events showed her that Zhu Haimian had deceived her, and more female heroes became her sisters over time. Lady Chun is a very proud person, extremely doted upon by her parents from a young age, rarely suffering indignities. The changes in Zhu Haimian affected her greatly. Yet she couldn't bear to leave this pig, unwilling to watch her true love wholly become someone else's. Her parents severely disapproved of this marriage, scolding her, which only made her do the opposite. Hence, she stayed, settling down securely as Zhu Haimian's second lady. Once the beautiful female hero Chening, her sword is still swift, even quicker than before. Many famous swordsmen in the martial world can't last 5 bouts against her. She believes she is perfect, and if someone as perfect as her cannot have perfect love, then neither can others. So, she began shaving people into human sticks, turning loving couples into limbless torsos. Witnessing a healthy couple being reduced by her hands, unable to hold each other's hands until death, she feels a strong sense of elation. Looking at the tortured pair, Zhu Haimian said, My lady, tomorrow is your 30th birthday. Do not be angry over such trifles. Lady Chun glared fiercely at this handsome demon and said harshly, You know this is all because of you. I want it this way. I can't stand seeing others loving someone wholeheartedly because you, this damned pig, fancy so many. You're a breeding pig. Zhu Haimian's expression did not change, especially his smile, which he rarely showed, because he thought smiling would affect his handsomeness. So, he slightly moved his lips and spoke gently, My lady, blame me. It's all my fault. You know, and still dare to talk back to me. Get out, Lady Chun said, her expression crazed. At this point, Zhu Haimian sat down, picked up the chopsticks on the table, and with a rare smile, said, I'm not eating vegetables today. Seeing Zhu Haimian's long-lost smile and hearing these words, the imposing Lady Chun still appeared fierce, but her sword-holding hand was already trembling. Because she knew this signified the man who had always been obedient to her was angry. Zhu Xiang became angry, and the consequences were terrifying. Lady, please make good preparations. Freshen yourself up. Your 30th birthday is tomorrow, and many distinguished guests will be attending. Channing originally wanted to say something more, but her hand was already tightly gripping the hilt of her sword. Yet in the end, she did not dare. When Zhu Xiang got angry, it was often the most terrifying time. So she could only grit her teeth and let out an emichum from her nostrils and then went back. In the room, the couple was left with only the upper halves of their bodies, gasping for breath. Zhu Wumian looked at them emotionlessly and backed out of the room. He was still kind-hearted and couldn't bear to see such a couple suffer, so it was better not to look. The next day, Zhuyan Manor amid the green mountains and waters was full of high-profile guests. Many who came were the retainers of the Zhu family. This was also the reason why Zhu Haimian could enjoy a life of luxury at Zhuyan Manor without care. As the host of the banquet, the second lady gazed indifferently at the crowd in the hall, giving a slight nod of acknowledgement. Even with distinguished guests aplenty, Chun Ying's heart was not overly joyful. She still regarded herself as a female hero, but the guests were nothing but vile and treacherous villains. She isn't like them. Her shaving of the human sticks was born out of inner pain. The ones she turned into human sticks only lost their lives, but she had lost her love. Unconsciously, her old martial world friends stopped visiting her, and even her parents and disciples from the Huangshan sword sect became distant. Thus, a trace of fierceness unknowingly crept into Chun Ying's eyes and brows. The banquet still began. For a moment, the sound of silk and bamboo instruments filled the air, and the guests below presented valuable birthday gifts one after another. Only at this moment did Chun Ying's mood slightly improve. Even without the false affections, with parents and friends who didn't care about her at all, she could still be beautiful on her own, a bright pearl of the world. At that moment, a wave of frantic cries shattered the joy of the banquet. One of Zhu Haimian's trusted men rushed in, saying, Young master, old demon Duan has come. At these words, the whole room burst into an uproar. Old demon Duan dares to come to Zhuyan Manor? Is he seeking death? Perhaps he's here to beg for mercy on the lady's birthday. Correct, it must be so. Zhu Haimian's face darkened as he said, What does he want? If he's here to beg for mercy, tell him to come back another day. The trusted man hurriedly shook his head. No, young master, old demon Duan, he said. He said. What did he say? Zhu Haimian's face showed dissatisfaction as his own lady's birthday celebration was interrupted. Today, he only wishes to kill you and the lady, or be killed by you. Upon hearing this, the entire uproar turned into a chilling silence. This old demon Duan had such audacity, speaking such evil words. Zhu Haimian's brow furrowed slightly as he said, Does he wish to have a one-on-one duel with me and the lady? Coming to my Zhuyan Manor, how could there be such a thing? Tell the men to kill old demon Duan with all they've got. Forget about any martial world's righteousness. Yes. Zhu Haimian sat in the main seat, his expression fluctuating between light and shadow. Within Zhu Yan Manor, he believed it was impossible for him to lose. The fierce look in the second Lady Chun Ying's eyes and eyebrows grew more intense. In the front courtyard of Zhu Yan Manor, numerous people from the Zhu family received orders and began to surround and assassinate the lone figure of old Demon Duan. For a time, crossbow arrows, hidden weapons, and large swords greeted Duan Yun without reservation. Duan Yun laughed heartily. I knew this pig wouldn't follow the rules of the martial world, but no matter, I adore being ambushed. As soon as his words fell, jade sword finger and elbow sword struck out in rapid succession, as swift as thunder. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 people from the Zhu family were killed. Black death energy spilled out from their corpses, all converging towards Duan Yun's waist, making the ink color of his belt even deeper. Duan Yun kicked one of the corpses away and said, "Is that all? Can't you put in a bit more effort? Hurry up, otherwise, the young hero here will get angry." Chapter 117. The female hero and young hero, today they both need to demon exterminate. Zhu Yan Manor is beautiful. Even though deep autumn has arrived, flowers here still bloom in profusion. Hot spring water from the mountain is channeled into the manor, steaming warmly, and momentarily, a mist envelopes everything, making it seem like a fairyland. Compared to Yuzhu Villa, it would be an understatement to say one is in the heavens and the other is underground. But at this moment, the beauty of this fairy-like place is shattered. Old Demon Duan is here. Fall back. Man the crossbows. With a loud bang, a tiled corridor was sliced apart by a swirl of sword chi. Following that, the bodies of 2 members from the Zhu family were also torn apart. Fresh corpses floated in the hot spring water, staining it with a swath of crimson. Amidst the rising dust, Duan Yun, sword in his right hand, lifting a human head with his left, approached. Under the enhancement of the Biming divine skill, the face of the head he held had become blurred. Around Duan Yun, over 10 Zhu family members wielding weapons paced in terror, not daring to come close. What a scene of a young hero battling a horde of demons. For a moment, Duan Yun felt as though he was inside the martial arts dramas he watched as a child, having become the protagonist himself. Inspired by this, a heroic spirit boiled within him, filling the heavens and the earth. Seeing that the man saturated by the Biming divine skill had his features become even more indistinct, he shouted, "I want to be a hero." His head tilted sideways, and he passed out. He was influenced by the supreme heroic spirit after such a long absorption. Clearly, his enlightenment is very low. Duan Yun flicked his hand, and the body of the Zhu family member smashed onto the ground, landing unfortunately with the back of his skull hitting first. Thus he died. He even committed suicide out of shame. There's a bit of repentance. In the next moment, all the death energy from the Zhu family member's corpse entered Duan Yun's belt. Even though Jade Sword Immortal did not reveal his Dharma image, he had absorbed the death energy of dozens of lives, and his netherworld energy surged tremendously. Thus, at a glance, a terrifying netherworld aura emanated around old Demon Duan, ready to devour anyone. When people of the martial world talked about Zhu Yan Manor with changed color, to Duan Yun it felt like entering an uninhabited land. Clank, 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 clank. A series of sounds from mechanical turning erupted, and Duan Yun suddenly had a dangerous premonition. Fire! With a loud boom, a platform hidden behind tree branches at a high point shook, dislodging countless specks of dust. A dark shadow with a burning flame at its front sped straight toward him. The sound of it tearing through the air was like thunder, creating a huge wind tunnel in the air, the momentum astonishing. A siege crossbow. The massive arrow came extremely quickly. Even if Duan Yun wanted to dodge, it was too late. Breaking body sword energy. Without any hesitation, the breaking body sword energy within Duan Yun burst forth, merging with the death energy. For a moment, his front was enveloped by a buzzing sword mist. With a loud explosion, the breaking body sword energy and the siege crossbow met, the air exploding, distorting and transforming into a series of white torrents. The ground where Duan Yun stood sank 2 feet, and the stone slabs behind him flew up like paper. In places unseen by ordinary people, the black breaking body sword energy shredded and decomposed the howling crossbow arrow. Yet, being as sudden and thunderous as the crossbow arrow, capable of breaching city walls, Duan Yun got injured. Unable to decompose completely, the tail end of the arrow shaft struck Duan Yun's arm, drawing a string of blood beads, then was shredded by the continuously swelling breaking body sword energy. The skin was broken. No, even more severe, he had lost at least 10 drops of blood. Considering that 1 drop of essence equals 10 drops of blood, this was akin to injuring his very essence. Not bad. This force is strong enough. Come at me again. The 2 crossbowmen on the high platform, upon hearing a sudden buzzing sound, were suddenly penetrated by the black breaking body sword energy, their torsos becoming riddled like a honeycomb. Along with them, the fairly large siege crossbow also became riddled with holes. Mounting a siege crossbow inside the manor, especially a hidden one, was an idea Zhu Haimian got from Tang family castle. He had always been very satisfied with this. Indeed, the siege crossbow had a miraculous effect this time, injuring Duan Yun's essence. I've hurt my essence, can't you see? Suddenly, Duan Yun turned to look at the Zhu family members gathered around him. Quick! Ah! Before the leader could utter run, a buzzing sound swelled, and his legs became riddled with holes. After killing the crossbowman, the breaking body sword energy returned with death energy. In a snap, 8 out of the 10 minions present were slaughtered. Duan Yun placed his hands on the heads of the 2 surviving minions, channeling the Beiming divine skill. This young hero lost 10 drops of blood. Time to replenish. In an instant, both death energy and true qi converged towards Duan Yun. Duan Yun continued to walk forward. The guest hall of Zhuyan Manor was vast. It was like a cave dug almost halfway into a mountain, with a huge skylight above that scattered the daylight. Inside the guest hall, exquisite, plush carpets covered the floor and dimly lit crimson candles created a festive atmosphere. This was originally the best birthday gift from Zhu Wumian to the second lady. But someone had to spoil the mood. Zhu Wumian sat there with closed eyes, his demeanor calm and composed, resembling a meditating old monk. Influenced by him, everyone else gradually settled down, some drinking, others eating. Even though old Demon Duan was here, this was Zhuyan Manor after all. Presumably no storm can be stirred up. Boom! The vermilion door burst open, and amidst the dust, a mangled figure flew in. It was Zhu Wumian's trusted messenger who had come to report. He opened his mouth and, while spitting blood, said, "Old Demon Duan, he's come. Old Demon Duan has some nerve, daring to come here. Brothers, let's stand together and kill him as a celebration gift for the second lady." Boom! Before this man, trying to curry favor with Zhu Wumian, could finish his speech, his head was penetrated by a silvery white sword qi, trailing a stream of blood. He was quite strong, quickly circulating his true qi to stop the bleeding. But the next moment, his head tilted, and he was sucked into the billowing dust by a strange force. 2 breaths later, he reappeared in everyone's sight, his body floating. His head was firmly grasped by Duan Yun's palm, held aloft in an inverted position. As he was drawn in by the strange force, his face blurred, and the blood on his head coated his features monstrously. "Old Demon Duan!" Someone cried out, and the crowd instinctively retreated, trying to shield themselves with others. As Duan Yun sucked on the retainer, he stepped down the stairs. Trying to gang up on this young hero? Put some effort into it. Don't be shy, I can take it. Upon saying this, no one dared to step forward. Duan Yun continued, looking towards Zhu Haimian and the second lady Chening at the head table. Eventually, his gaze settled on Zhu Haimian and he said, "Zhu Haimian, I've come to be tortured by you into a non-human form, or perhaps, to torture you and your wife into a non-human form." Hearing the words, "your wife," Zhu Haimian's eyes snapped open. His eyes were bright, shining like ferocious mouths, as if ready to devour. In that moment, Channing stepped forward first, her face full of heroic spirit, saying, "I heard this demon masquerades as a young hero spreading harm in the martial world and your Jade Sword sect causing chaos everywhere. You've even dirted the term female hero. Today, this heroine shall slay demons and rectify the name of heroism." Hus! Zhu Haimian couldn't finish his words, as Channing interrupted him proudly, saying, "This heroine's Huangshan golden sword has never tasted defeat since its creation. Today it shall make you, demon, bleed and die." Duan Yun snapped the neck of the Zhu family retainer in his hand with a click, his expression growing darker, and said, "Don't you know? It's impolite for a mad woman to rudely interrupt others' speeches. Mad woman, let this young hero show you what true demon extermination is." For a moment, Chun Ying's expression shifted to one of murderous intent. Both parties, one self-proclaimed as a heroine and the other as a young hero, one calling the other an old demon, the other calling her a mad woman, each touched a nerve in the other. Thus, at this moment, both sides were intent on killing each other. The more brutally, the better. Zhu Wumian stood up, clearly about to intervene, but at that moment, Channing sternly said, "Don't you trust this heroine's ability? Zhu Wumian, if you dare to interfere with my slaying of demons today, this heroine will never love you again." Zhu Wumian pondered for a moment, then sat back down, remarking, "Be careful, my lady." Humph! Confidently, Chuning drew her sword, a sword as golden as gold, while Duan Yun drew his blade, a very gentle blade. Chapter 118. "Lady, you are very smooth, but your heroic spirit is not pure enough." Mad woman Channing drew her unbeatable Huangshan golden sword, while the old demon Duan Yun unsheathed that demon blade named Wenro. Everyone involuntarily stepped back, holding their breath and focusing intently, some even with a bloodthirsty eagerness in their eyes. There's going to be a real show this time, just not sure if these spectators will still be alive to leave. Although the swords were drawn, for a moment, neither of them moved. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, and Duan Yun made his move. His right hand had drawn the blade, but it was his left that shot out a jade sword finger. The sword light was like moonlight, directly striking at Chen Ying's face. Sword finger. Chen Ying revealed a cold smile. Her golden sword swept horizontally, and the jade sword finger was cleanly parried. Duan Yun raised his hand, his fingers flicking continuously. The sword chi broke through the air, but Chen Ying remained unshaken, her golden sword trembling slightly, as if by magic, instantly devouring the jade sword finger energy. Easily neutralizing old demon's sword finger, Chen Ying grew even more pleased with herself. Before marrying into the Zhu family, she was already in the Tongyu realm, and since learning swordsmanship, she had never been defeated. Over the years, she had killed many, including famous experts, and her skills and swordsmanship had naturally progressed. After the rat phase had disappeared, Zhu Xiang Zhu Haimian also ceased to stir up trouble outside. So in Zhuyan Manor in the past few years, her fierce reputation had surpassed that of her husband Zhu Haimian. As a female hero skilled in the sword Dao, she could tell at a glance that old demon's sword finger, though tricky and difficult to master, was simply not enough against her. Seeing this, the crowd's fear of the old demon significantly waned. The second lady is strong indeed. The next moment, as Duan Yun flicked his fingers, his feet also kicked out sword chi. Humph! Think it's useful just because you add your feet to the mix? Despite being surprised that she could kick out sword chi, Chen Ying remained calm and composed, effortlessly dispelling it. No matter how much useless sword chi you summon, it's still useless. Prepare to die. Chen Ying raised her sword, intending to forcefully cut through the sword chi finger and counterattack. But in the next instant, she suddenly screamed, "Ah!" her legs clamping together tightly. But it was too late. Liquid shot out from her crotch, piercing through her skirt and knocking over the wine cups on the table beside her. Unable to steady herself, Duan Yun's feet unleashed flirtatious toe strength, attacking again as if it cost him nothing. This time, having her bladder so violently and suddenly assaulted, she failed to even defend against one of the toe strengths. So the flirtatious toe strength hit her directly on the shoulder, her body flouncing and rolling out, splashing several bloodthirsty spectators nearby with her discharge. This dramatic and explosive change was so sudden that the onlooking crowd could hardly react. After a moment, the servants covered in it began to comprehend what had happened, some actually getting excited. This was the second lady's urine. Indeed, Duan Yun's initial jade sword finger was but a feint, a tactic to confuse the opponent, followed by multiple sword chi fingers containing several wind-flowing forces. The jade sword finger penetrated, but the flirtatious finger strength was tremulous. Using the same method to deflect it would surely fail. As several wind-flowing forces converged, the second lady was duped and burst. Her unbeatable golden sword now hung with her bodily fluids, turning the color of its golden blade to a shade of gold. But young hero Duan pressed his advantage, approaching swiftly while laughing boisterously. "Mad woman, you seem quite moist. Seems like you're not intense enough. Let me help you vent some fire." With that, he delivered a strike with his elbow sword. Qianning sensed danger, her golden sword trembling suddenly, shaking off the golden fluid on the blade into a mist, creating a flurry of illusions. The golden sword swept out, and numerous rays of sword chi scattered. The sword chi drifted like willow branches, unpredictable, shattering the elbow sword's attack and pushing Duan Yun back. One had to admit, Qian Ying's swordsmanship had reached a high level. The returning wind willow sword was already a unique skill of the Huangshan sword sect, and even though she executed it hastily, its power was remarkable. Qianning managed to catch a brief respite. At this moment, Zhu Haimian stood up with his face turning green. He had envisioned his wife losing the fight in various ways, as old demon Duan, having first slain his elder sister-in-law and then arriving unharmed, did possess some true ability. He had also prepared to ensure her safety and even seek an opportunity to directly attack and take old demon Duan's life clandestinely. But old demon Duan's first two moves had left him befuddled. Now all he had in his mind was that his beloved wife had wet herself. Wet herself. The scene of old demon Duan humiliating her publicly. It was splattered everywhere. What a terribly degrading sight had befallen his perfect, flawless female hero wife. And so he wanted old demon Duan dead. But at this moment, Qianning shouted, "Zhu Haimian, if you dare to make a move, I'll kill myself in front of you. He did this to me. I must personally cut him down." Qianning was crying and ranting frantically. Zhu Haimian could only forcibly stand there, grinding his teeth. As Qianning spoke, her hair was disheveled and her eyes filled with needle-like malice. Since she began practicing swordsmanship, she had never been defeated, always a favored child of heaven. The Huangshan heroine, truly the pampered jewel in the palm. She almost never suffered any grievance. She thought she would never fail, never be aggrieved. Failure and grievance were things she could not accept, which was also the reason why, after Zhu Haimian married two other women, she tortured and killed countless couples. Her world should have no place for any failure or grievance. She was the embodiment of perfection, but today she was made to wet herself publicly by a man. Right in front of so many people. Such a feeling was absolutely more unbearable than being struck by the five thunders. Even more so than witnessing her beloved Zhu Haimian suddenly marrying over 10 men at once and committing adultery with them. So she went mad. She had to kill this man in front of her. She had to kill everyone here who had witnessed her urinary incontinence. Only then could she continue to live her perfect life. The next moment, Qianying's long hair suddenly fluttered, and a wild killing intent swirled in her eyes. Old demon Duan, prepare to die. The Huangshan golden sword buzzed and thrusted out fiercely. At the moment the sword was thrust, the surrounding air flowed like water. The air split open, turning into a white torrent, which then transformed into sword chi, waving like willow branches, thrusting towards Duan Yun. "Lady, you're so fierce." Duan Yun laughed as he swung his blade in a chopping strike. 6 layers of spring rain. The spinning sword power of spring rain and the floating sword chi like willow branches collided, resembling the surface of a river with willow branches in the spring rain. Quite beautiful to behold. The scene was beautiful, with a hint of poetry, but within the beauty lurked tremendous danger. At the point where the spring rain and willow branches clashed, tiny spinning vortices appeared. The vortices shot out, turning a bronze wine cup on the table into a twisted shape, and the heads and bodies of several Zhu family servants blossomed open. Flesh flowers and brain flowers blossomed beautiful in form, but they held no poetic beauty. The next moment, the spring rain was suddenly scattered by the willow branches, due to the rebounding willow branches returning with force. This return carried the same force and speed, even faster and more violent. Rotate. The seventh layer of spring rain rotates. Almost at the same time, Death Energy and Jade Sword True Chi burst out, revealing the Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal Dharma. The instant the Dharma image appeared, the first layer of spring rain she held in her hands flew out. The rotating first layer of spring rain collided with the 6 layers of spring rain that were being rapidly torn apart. With a boom, the previously collapsing spring rain suddenly surged, once again pushing the willow branches to sway. The residual waves of the collision between sword chi and sword power spread out like ripples, flipping nearby tables and people off their feet, causing blood to flow from the ears of those with weaker strength. "Lady, can you put on more strength?" Duan Yu turned his body, and the Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal Dharma behind him rotated as well, his indifferent eyes landing on Chan Ying. Chan Ying's head was steaming, blood flowing from her 7 orifices, and her clothes had been shattered by the shock, revealing her white skin. She screamed, "Die! Old demon! Return!" Her right hand slid on the golden sword, and the spilling blood brought up a strange vortex. The scattered sword chi in the air suddenly tightened, surging back and forth like tides, gathering into a gigantic sword chi like willow branches, thrusting towards Duan Yun and the Dharma image of the Jade Sword Immortal. The highest realm of the returning wind willow sword is 3 returns heaven, a technique only 2 ancestors of the Huangshan sword sect ever mastered. Chan Ying had always been a distance away from the second return heaven. But today, under such immense humiliation, she pushed herself to the limit, disregarding the severe damage it would cause her meridians in the future, and executed the second level of returning wind willow sword. She was determined to slay old demon Duan. Breaking body sword energy. Without any hesitation, breaking body sword energy poured out of Duan Yun's body like it cost nothing, merging with the death energy of the Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal. An alarming buzzing sound suddenly rose, like a massive swarm of bees buzzing in one's ears. In a snap, the black sword chi became like a pillar. The colossal sword chi like willow branches pierced through the 7 layers of spring rain and collided with this raging death energy and breaking body sword energy. Truly strong. The breaking body sword energy seemed endless, growing darker and thicker. The front and middle section of the robust golden willow branch had been destroyed, the latter half trembling on the verge of collapse. With a blast, the residual waves of the 2 sword chis blew a great hole into the rock layer above. Duan Yun's surging breaking body sword energy continued to grow. At this time, Chuning felt immense fear and couldn't help but think of calling for help. Yes, before she had said if Zhu Wumian dared to help her, she would commit suicide. Besides being humiliated, she was confident she could kill old demon Duan. But now, she realized she couldn't, and she was probably going to die. She was so perfect, she didn't want to die. Unfortunately, it was too late. Her mouth had just opened to call for help when her throat let out a "oh" sound. While resisting her golden sword chi, Duan Yun also took the opportunity to kick out with flirtatious toe strength, striking her lower abdomen. Then, with her legs clamped together, she shattered her teeth. As the splashing began below, the voice of old demon Duan rang out despairingly. "Lady, your demon slayer is not as powerful as my demon extermination. It seems your heroic spirit isn't pure. It's fake." With a bang, the black body-breaking sword pillar completely destroyed the golden sword chi, and also as if piercing Chen Ying's abdomen. I told you not to deceive yourself. I am the true young hero. Don't you understand that good always triumphs over evil? Duan Yun was enveloped in black sword chi, lifting his sword in a swipe. With a roar, the death energy and breaking body sword energy turned, and Chen Ying was swept into the sky. As she fell from the sky, only white bones remained of her hands and legs, and compared to the human sticks she had shaved, there was only a bit more shattered bone. She now lay there, immobile like the lovers she turned into human sticks. At this moment, Duan Yun felt an overwhelming killing intent and looked towards Zhu Wumian with a face ashen with anger, saying, Zhu, your lady is very smooth. It's your turn now. Chapter 119. Demon's Final Battle. Entangled Love and Hatred, and Love Unlimited. Chen Ying lay in a pool of blood, her body gradually becoming numb to the excruciating pain. She had never imagined that she would become the very stick person she often shaved. So this is what it feels like to be a stick person. Yet she had always been regarded as the pearl in the palm of many, treasured by all, the perfect female hero admired by countless people. But old demon Duan had destroyed her flawless self. It was really too malicious. If it weren't for her desire to witness the malicious old demon Duan beaten to death with her own eyes, she might have already died of cerebral hemorrhage from sheer rage. So at this moment, Chen Ying couldn't help but let out a hysterical scream. Zhu Haimian, you must kill him. Avenge me. She stared fixedly at Duan Yun, determined to see him die. Duan Yun paid her no heed and directly gazed at Zhu Haimian. He was going to let her watch with eyes wide open, as the man who was supposed to avenge him also got killed by him, young hero. The way young hero Duan had dealt with her was a result of meticulous planning. Those who massacre the innocent deserve to be massacred. Young hero Duan doesn't hold grudges, but the little notebook already noted the mad woman's misdeeds, and she couldn't escape this bad karma. This is the strike of justice. Now it's this pig's turn. Zhu Haimian and Duan Yun looked at each other, finding each other unpleasant not only because of this new hatred and old grudge, but also because they both thought the other was quite handsome. Zhu Haimian, for the sake of his perfect handsome face, scarcely laughed. Seeing someone else whose appearance could compete with his, how could he be pleased and sleep peacefully? Duan Yun, upon seeing Zhu Haimian's face resembling that of a handsome young actor, also felt a need for elimination. An evil demon with such a handsome face might deceive many innocent people. He must be removed. Lady, watch carefully. Your husband is going to toy with him until he's no longer human. Even at this moment, Zhu Haimian spoke with a gentle and warm tone, maintaining a perfect composure. After that, he pinched the end of his sleeve and walked towards a candelabra with the bearing of a young actor from an opera, and with a tug, bright red candle wax spilled onto the floor, revealing the sharp and hidden blade within. It was an exceedingly sharp nine-toothed rake. Almost at the same time, a high-pitched swona began to play, followed by the flowing sound of silk and bamboo instruments. The musicians from the previous birthday feast hadn't left and started playing at this moment. Zhu Haimian held the nine-toothed rake, stepping forward amidst the silk and bamboo music. Duan Yun suddenly felt a bit nervous. This demon has his own background music. Embrace Sparrow Tail. Behind Duan Yu, the netherworld jade sword immortal's dozens of arms stretched out, fingertips swirling with black mist, like smoke and fog. Jade sword finger. Dozens of jade sword finger sword energy turned into a storm of swords, hurtling towards Zhu Haimian. Zhu Haimian held the nine-toothed rake, spinning with a howl, forming a barrier that deflected the jade sword finger sword energy. Along the way, Duan Yun's true chi inside his body surged, igniting flirtatious toe strength and finger strength. At this moment, Zhu Haimian laughed, revealing bright red gums. In the midst of the silk and bamboo sounds, it gave a sense of eerie terror. Just like when he faced Chen Ying, the wind-flowing force was extremely difficult to defend against a tremor. The force, transmitted through the rake, hit the body, yet Zhu Haimian's forward charge speed didn't change, because he didn't resist at all. With urine splashing, he charged at Duan Yun as if to shoot Duan Yun with his urine. "Lady, your husband will certainly behead him today, thanks to your great help." Indeed, Lady Qining had risked her life to probe into many of old demon Duan's cultivation techniques, providing him valuable experience to slay the old demon. At this moment, Zhu Haimian cared not for incontinence, even letting go of his urine, thus lessening the impact of flirtatious toe strength on him. In the blink of an eye, the splashing Zhu Haimian arrived. Hum! The nine-toothed rake let out a mournful buzz, striking towards Duan Yun. Duan Yun unsheathed his sword with a dragon's cry, a water moon sword energy slash. With a whoosh, the sword energy shattered. The long and powerful nine-toothed rake continued digging towards Duan Yun's head. The air distorted where the rake passed. This pig had seized the opportunity for a close attack. Clang! The clash of knife and sword firmly caught the nine-toothed rake. The sharp teeth were mere inches from Duan Yun's neck, the cold blade edge causing his neck to prickle with goosebumps. This Zhu Wumian, despite looking like a young actress from an opera, exuded a sense of innate divine strength. "Continue," Zhu Haimian said with a dark smile. He had already noticed that Duan Yun's terrifying black aura had weakened and was seemingly unsustainable. The nine-toothed rake continued to sink. With a boom, the tiles under Duan Yun's feet shattered. Duan Yun had a thought, and behind him, the netherworld jade sword Immortal Dharma's sword in hand swept. 3 water moon sword energy slashes aimed straight at Zhu Haimian's head. Zhu Haimian lifted the rake, a clang deflecting the 3 water moon sword energy, saying, "You think you're the only one with a Dharma image?" With that, his body shuddered, true chi spilling out, forming a tall pig demon Dharma. Middle split teeth. Instantly, the nine-toothed rake rolled like a dragon in Zhu Haimian's hands, slamming down alongside the pig demon Dharma to the ground. Boom! The roaring force split the ground and the air into 2, creating rolling shockwaves. Duan Yun kicked out 2 consecutive flirtatious toe strength, using the recoil to perform movement technique and turned into an afterimage, nimbly dodging. But the violent shockwave carried stones that struck him, still causing a throbbing pain. Amidst the rolling dust, a section of the rake suddenly attacked, aiming for Duan Yun's neck. Duan Yun raised his elbow, striking with an elbow sword. Breaking body sword energy. Chapter 120. Clang. The rake was halted in its tracks, and the breaking body sword energy surged along it, producing a piercing whine. Ah! Zhu Haimian's sleeve and arm were punctured by dozens of tiny blood holes by the breaking body sword energy. However, as his skin rippled like water, the chi force inside his body cleanly neutralized the breaking body sword energy. "Old demon Duan, is that all you've got?" Boom! With a flip of his rake, Zhu Haimian's whistling chi force shattered the air into fragments. In haste, Duan Yun kicked out with a toe sword counterattack, but was also sent flying by the chi force with a numbing arm holding the sword. At the same time, a surge of energetic Swana music suddenly erupted from the orchestra, signaling the start of Zhu Haimian's counterattack. "Lady, watch closely. This is a dance for you by your husband." Whoosh! Zhu Haimian, embodying the pig demon Dharma image, soared into the sky. The daylight in the courtyard shone on the pig demon, accompanied by his unique background music, truly giving off a demonic godlike aura. "Love!" Zhu Haimian raised his rake, smashing it down. A terrifying blow charged like a wild boar towards Duan Yun. This force carried a scorching breath, a testament to his burning love for the lady. Almost at the same moment, Duan Yun and Little Yu's thoughts merged as one. Break! Body! Sword! Pillar! Black death energy circulated around Duan Yun and the netherworld jade immortal sword Dharma image. The overflowing breaking body sword energy formed a sword pillar, colliding with Zhu Haimian's love. Boom! The solid ground sank 2 feet. Nearby stone slabs were flung about like pieces of paper. The entire guest cave trembled violently. At the point of collision between the 2 chi forces, everything was pulverized. The body-breaking sword pillar held off the attack, but Duan Yun felt as if his whole body was scorched. as if he also felt the intense love from Zhu Haimian. Hate! Zhu Haimian twisted his body. His hairband snapped, veins on his forehead surfaced, and blood seeped from his gums as he smashed down with another rake. This time, the chi force of the rake was dark blue, carrying a bone-chilling coldness, with dark currents swirling. This was his hatred. The hatred of Mr. Duan humiliating the lady. The hatred for turning a perfect and flawless female hero into a broken figure. He wanted Mr. Duan dead. The icy, grim chi force roared down. Love was burning below, and cold hatred fell from above. For a moment, this place seemed like a purgatory of ice and fire. Spin. Damn it. The 8-layered spring rain, spin. The 6-layered spring rain formed into apparitions, breaking out with blades, merging with the Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal's 2-layered spring rain into one. Sword light flickered, intending to cleanse the sky and earth. But the forces of love and hate intertwined, merging like water and fire, escalating continuously. Most of the musicians were already stunned and sent flying. Yet the musician playing the swona, with blood coming from his eyes and nose, blew the swona notes even higher. Entwine. At this moment, Zhu Haimian's body twirled into a meat ring. Or rather, with the rake in hand, he merged into one, becoming a meat nail rake. At this moment, centered around him, the forces of love and hate were intertwined like the romance of ice and fire. Lady, this is my entanglement of love and hate for you. In an instant, Zhu Haimian, now a spinning meat nail rake, smashed down like a wind and fire wheel. Seeing this, Duan Yun laughed loudly. Ha ha ha! You, a married man, understand love. This young hero will show you today what love unlimited is. The Netherworld Jade Sword Immortal, Little Yu, Dharma image descended, merging with Duan Yun. At that moment, originally like a netherworldly lifeless entity, her eyes were filled with intense emotions of love. Following closely, she merged with Duan Yun, spinning together, transforming into a ring in the spring rain. This is the love unlimited, derived from the 9 layers of spring rain. The hurricane formed by the swords had erupted from the ground, with thunder and lightning shuttling through the spinning hurricane of swords and colliding violently with Zhu Haimian's spinning meat nail rake. Hissing sounds. A dense and intensely fierce friction sound continuously erupted. In a flick of a finger, both sides' weapons and chi force collided countless times, instantaneously generating scorching, flowing fire. Boom, boom, boom. Zhu Yen Manor began to shake violently, like an earthquake. The originally extremely solid cave reception hall showed terrifying cracks on its surface. Both sides grappled with each other, one with violent entanglement of love and hatred, the other with love unlimited, neither yielding to the other. Squeaking sounds. Suddenly, the thunder and lightning of love unlimited struck a set of 9-toothed rake, twisting and deforming the incredibly sharp teeth. With a snap, a bolt of lightning struck Zhu Haimian's body. His wildly spinning body involuntarily became half-paralyzed. This paralysis caused a momentary pause, which was the moment of defeat. The terrifying sword and saber energy of love unlimited surged like a tide, and in just an instant, Zhu Haimian was slashed 33 times. His ripple-like bizarre chi force dissolved the massive damage of these 33 slashes, yet his body flew out like a torn sack. Love. Unlimited. Almost at the same time, Duan Yun and Little Yu's thoughts aligned. They simultaneously raised Jade's sword finger to the sky, and the spinning sword storm transformed into a line with this gesture, forming a terrifying sword pillar that pierced through Zhu Haimian's body. No! A piercing scream arose. Zhu Haimian's body below his navel had been shredded into bits. Entangled love and hate. Ultimately lost to love unlimited. Defeated. Defeated amidst his own background music. Utterly defeated. With a thud, Zhu Haimian's body heavily smashed to the ground, only half of it remaining. The place he landed was only about 10 steps away from Second Lady Chening. Chening watched with wide eyes as he was defeated, almost dying of fury and resentment to the extreme. This is unreasonable. Unreasonable that she sacrificed so much, tested out so many of old demon Duan's moves, yet still lost. Lady! Lady! At this moment, she suddenly heard her husband's voice. In her sight, her husband, bleeding profusely, was dragging half his body crawling towards her. In this instant, her eyes also filled with tears as she responded, "Husband!" Seeing that Zhu Haimian was only a few steps away from her, his hand about to touch her, a shadow suddenly enveloped them at this moment. You put on this miserable family drama, making this young hero seem like the villain. Old demon Duan's voice sounded. The next moment, a forceful chi whistled through, and they were blasted away. A short distance turned into an unbridgeable gap. Old demon Duan, you shall not die a good death. Chen Ying's head buzzed, blood rushing to her head. She directly died of anger. Her eyes remained open in death. She never expected that even her ending would be the same as the lovers whose limbs she had shaved off. Seeing this, Zhu Haimian's eyes burst with rage. Seeing Duan Yun approaching, his broken palms raised, fiercely pounding his own forehead, tilting his head, he died abruptly. His last intention was clear. I'd rather die than give you my power. Duan Yun truly hadn't thought about absorbing. He just felt very tired, and couldn't help saying, "Little you, loving with you is so tiring." He did not see that upon hearing this, the already somewhat faded jade immortal sword, Little you, revealed a touch of resentful emotion in her eyes. Duan Yun truly didn't pay attention to these, because he felt these were not important. What's important is that evil doesn't suppress the righteous. This young hero and the young hero's love unlimited will definitely triumph.